update from Bainbridge Island Senior Center regarding redevelopment project, including review of 90% design.
Good evening, Council. Ellen Schroer, Interim City Manager, here to introduce our first item tonight. The City of Bainbridge Island and the Senior Center organization have worked together for many years to provide a facility and services to the community. The city owns and maintains the current waterfront park senior and community center building, commonly known as the Senior Center, located in Waterfront Park. This building is managed and used by the Senior Center organization, providing a wide variety of services open to all in the community. We also use this location as an emergency hub and a warming and cooling center during times of inclement weather. In 2024, the city and the Senior Center entered into an agreement for the redevelopment of this facility to be led by the Senior Center organization. In order to make sure that the plans align with council and community priorities, there were 3 check-ins set in that original agreement at 30 and 60 and 90% design. So far, we have had those first 2 of those, and tonight you'll receive a briefing on the 90% design and also be asked to concur with the design team. This is all part of the original memorandum of understanding that was signed between the 2 organizations. Members of the design team, led by our architect, or by the architect, will make a presentation and be available for questions. And then the action tonight is to schedule this item for a future business meeting for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And welcome, Charlie Winslow.
Thank you. Charlie Winslow. I'm the architect for the Senior Center working with Reprice. We're really happy to be here and give you an update on where we are. I'm going to try and keep this brief. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through the materials, but I'll give you a quick walkthrough on the design. We are at our 90% design presentation, which is our final check-in with the council. In terms of our work, we're probably 2 to 3 months away from submitting for building permits. So we're really quite far into the design, and we're excited to share with you what we've done. Just as a procedural thing, we will be applying for a boundary line adjustment, and that is in process to help create a standalone lot to encompass the new improvements. Reed, did you have anything you want to say or just join me? Okay.
I'm just here at this point. So.
Okay. We can go ahead and start with the slides. First slide, please. The site plan is largely the same as what we presented last time. It's quite a small scale drawing to look at. But the improvements, what we've been focusing on is the entry courtyard to the building, and the garden space has been sort of redesigned with more of a Japanese-inspired aesthetic. Additionally, to the lower left-hand corner of the Senior Center, as you come up from the dock, we're envisioning the potential for a story pole as part of the town to waterfront trail experience. Next slide. Overview of the building. We're looking from the uphill side towards the entry courtyard. And again, you can see kind of the playground off to the right-hand side and the drop-off area in front of the building. Next slide, please. Another view looking towards the entry to the building. And again, the playground areas in the foreground to the right. Next slide, please. This view is from the southern side of the building, as if you were floating above the rowing center. And as you look to the building on the left-hand side, you're seeing the large multi-purpose hall with its outdoor terrace overlooking the park, what we're calling the south courtyard entry into the building. And on this frontage, you'll also have the thrift shop on the first floor to the left, and to the right, what we're referring to as the resiliency hub. Next slide, please. Again, a closer up view of the building. One other thing, the materials have been settled on now, and the building will be clad in 2 different kinds of metal siding that will have a really nice, rich color palette. And then we're also introducing some brick to relate to the brick in downtown. And that's the lighter toned material. Next slide. So I'm going to show you a couple of views inside the building and just give you a picture of some of the materials. So as you come in the entry, this is the fireside area for people to gather. Next slide. This is a view pivoting around, looking towards the entry check-in space. And then next slide, please. Another similar view, and then one more slide. And now this is down at the south side of the building. And this is our big double height glass wall and stairway where you can exit out of the building or enter into the building from Waterfront Park. So it gives quite a dramatic and beautiful prospect out over the park space to the south. Next. And then this is the multi-purpose room. This room has a capacity of up to about 250 people. We've been designing it to be very supportive for acoustics so that audible speech is accessible for all people, as well as trying to make sure the acoustics are supportive of live performance. So it's going to be quite a special room for the island. Next slide, please. And I'm not going to go through these in detail. You can certainly look at these in your leisure, but these are the palette of materials for the interior. We're introducing a lot of natural kind of light colored wood materials. We're trying to reflect the natural environment of the Northwest with the color scheme, reflecting the madrona bark, the water color, the water outside, and the green in the park. Next slide. And part of this aesthetic will be introducing some interesting tile mosaics in the restroom and some other areas within the building. And again, trying to draw from forest sound and, neutral. That doesn't sound very exciting. Okay. I was like, what does that word say? Next slide, please. And then the other thing that's been a big part of our design is, of course, the lighting. And not only are we working to have abundant natural light in the building, but also kind of a playful but home-like quality with the artificial lighting in the building. So we have a variety of lighting fixtures to create, again, really reinforce a home-like environment inside the center. Next. And then just in conclusion, I think we discussed this previously. We've been working with Resilient Bainbridge and Bainbridge Prepares to make sure that a portion of the building functions as a resiliency hub. And next slide, please. And then this will be my final slide. We're also working, the building is going to be an all-electric building. It's going to have a photovoltaic array on the roof that will be capable of providing 60% of the building's energy, which is quite amazing. And this will be also going through a LEED certification. So we're taking the environmental elements as far as we're capable of doing, giving, the fundraising that we're doing for the project. I think it's going to be quite a admirable building. So lastly, just in conclusion, our next steps, we are working now with a contractor, local contractor, Carly Construction. Carly Construction recently finished Bainbridge Performing Arts, did a beautiful job on it. They are currently working on Bainbridge Island Japanese American Exclusion Memorial, which again is really a very beautiful building. We're working on the capital campaign, of course. That's essential for the project. We anticipate submitting for building permit potentially as soon as this fall. And depending on fundraising, we're looking for potential construction start in spring 2027. So things are going very well. we're really happy with the progress we've made, and we'd love to hear your comments or questions. Thanks.
Council? I was not looking. First was, I think, Councilmember Van Trey Jones.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'm happy to see that you're as far as you are. Can you talk a little bit more about the LEED certification and what parts of the building or will the whole building be LEED certified?
Yes, it'll be for the entire building. We're working with Arc Ecology, who is our sustainability consultant, and they're helping us make the leap from our scoring, which is quite an ambitious effort. One of the key features in the building is going to be the environmental systems, meaning the mechanical systems. And we're looking for not only a low maintenance system, but a very energy efficient system. And one thing I didn't mention in the presentation that was part of the MOU is that we were going to have a couple of touch points with engineering. And we just completed our meeting with Peter Corellis last week and reviewed the building exterior materials, the mechanical system, to make sure as the city takes on the maintenance for the building, it's something that the city feels is going to be affordable and efficient.
I'll follow up with
Sure.
just a question on water usage. Will that be a part of the part of your LEED?
Yes, absolutely. So we will be working with all the fixtures will be low water use fixtures in the building. So that's one of the key components. Yeah.
I might also mention that one of our decisions about making and we're going to have as part of this, a commercial kitchen that will be available as part of the building. It doesn't, adjacent to the multi-purpose hall, the community hall. And that will be induction ranges, and we won't need to have he mentioned all electric, but the kitchen will be all electric for sure as well.
Great. Councilmember Matthews?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And thank you both for the presentation. It's so wonderful to see us get to this point. I'm obviously proud of Bainbridge Island and this community for many things, but one of the things that we hear regionally, even from our neighboring jurisdictions like Poulsbo or Bremerton, are how wonderful our senior center is, and how many folks come from other areas to participate in activities at our senior center. So it's really, and I also want to commend you on a really successful capital campaign. You raised a lot. Well, I don't know if you're done yet, so you can let us know how much you have left. Maybe help you get to that point, but really some great work there.
Yeah, we're at about 26% of our $22.5 million goal.
Wow.
So there's still a long way to go, but we have a strong start, I believe.
Thanks, Reed.
That's about a little over $6 million.
A lot of money in my head. So thank you. So one question or two you said that you're submitting permits in the fall, right? You're going to submit permits in the fall to start construction in spring of 2027. We all know that permitting times and permits can be sometimes, we know what happens. Is there a sense that if there's any sort of delays that your costs, where is the line where your costs are going to start to increase if you don't get permits by that time? Just wondering, I'm thinking of Wing Point and other organizations who have had to push things back and really readjust because of.
Yeah, since we're done with our planning reviews, I think it's a pretty straight glide path now into the building permit process. And what I've been hearing from others is that the process is now going very quickly and smoothly, which all of us really appreciate. So thank you for that.
Okay.
So we're not anticipating, I think our critical path is going to be fundraising.
Okay. And were you able to put laundry facilities in?
Yes, we have.
Yes. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Lant?
Thank you. Yeah, just to piggyback on the permitting question, do you have any estimates on what your permit fees just from the city might be at? Can you ballpark it?
I oftentimes tell clients it could be 1% of the construction cost, and this is very anecdotal, but that could push it upwards of $200,000. So it's not an inexpensive process. And I know that we're interested in any support we can get or relief municipally on this.
Thank you. Yes, I know that there's been some conversations about what relief might look like, because we also acknowledge that we want this project to go forward on a timeline and a cost scale that works for the community. Second question here is the boundary line adjustment that you're putting in for right now, is it strictly for the building? Is there still going to be some placeholders for proposed future housing within that boundary line adjustment?
Yes, the boundary line is very close to what we anticipated a year and a half ago when we brought in sketches to show the potential footprints to the east and west. So yes, there's still an equivalent amount of land that we presented previously.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Councilmember Schneider?
Thank you. So it was super fun kind of seeing the flyover, right? The progressive pictures from up high was just really great. Very excited for this project. The Resiliency Hub. You didn't mention any specifics, and I'm just kind of curious if there are any special features. I'm assuming that the solar is an important piece of the resilience, but then it would also have to be sort of tied to battery in order for it to be an energy piece of the resiliency. What can you tell us about the features for the resiliency?
Well, about the Resiliency Hub specifically, we've been working with, as Charlie mentioned, Bainbridge Prepares in detail to look at ways that we can support things like being able to easily convert that multipurpose room into a dormitory, the idea of thinking about where antennas might need to be so that we can easily set up emergency communications, the idea of how there might be storage, there will be storage inside the parking garage area. 28 parking spaces are planned to be added to the park as a part of this project. And then you mentioned power supply. And this figure that we have does not include batteries, but our anticipation, we are designing it with our contractors and with the architect to put in the wiring and the setup so that sort of our next step would be to do a fundraising project. And I have actually talked with the interim city manager about the idea of working with the city after we have the building to maybe work together to apply for grants to do those next steps to make sure that it is quickly, a battery backup.
But I think you showed in the plan that there's actual space called the Resiliency Hub.
Okay, so that area is a flexible space on the first floor that we're designing with input. One of the things that we heard from the emergency preparedness folks, both in the city and Bainbridge Prepares, was the idea of being able to have somewhere that people could temporarily store things, cubbies, so that in the event of an emergency and people are trying to get around, is there somewhere we could have people stash things? So we sort of integrated that. There's a standalone bathroom and kitchen in that lower area, just a service kitchen, so that you could set up an emergency hub for sort of managing operations there, separate from a dormitory or using the kitchen. So it's that community hub or resilience hub could, on fair weather days, be used for foot care or medical check-ins or inoculations, public inoculation shots. So it's kind of a more flexible space that's a little more utilitarian than some of the pictures that you saw in Charlie's presentation.
Awesome, thank you.
And Councilmember Nelson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to say it's a beautiful design. And I love how the materials and colors are Pacific Northwest themed. I love the environmental aspects. I love that you're seeking LEED certification, and I love the focus on energy conservation. I also love that it still leaves room for the potential affordable housing project if the city decides to go that way in the future. I will say I'm supportive of any permit fee relief if that's something the city decides to do. And other than that, I would just say I am supportive as long as I'm still allowed to call bingo.
There you go. That's the conflict of interest we were talking about. I'm hoping that when you one of the things that we asked for in our memorandum, what we agreed on in our memorandum of understanding was, in addition to design approval, that you would review who we were choosing as an architect, which you earlier did and approved of. You had concurrence with, and again with Dave Carley and Carley Construction. When you do review the motion to take action on this, we would appreciate concurrence in our choice of Carley Construction as a contractor.
Thank you both.
And Mayor Marwaki?
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and to my colleagues. These are the wonderful people I get to see every Wednesday. And so it's nice to see you guys in my crib for a change. And Reed, you answered a lot of the questions I was thinking about, but if you could elaborate on a couple of them. One, it's great that it's going to be a potential emergency backup center with communications, but currently now it's used as a warming shelter sometimes when it's below freezing, et cetera, et cetera. Could you give us an idea of how many, at capacity you could hold right now versus how many you could in the new facility with its larger meeting rooms, et cetera, how many more people we could serve in that kind of situation?
Yeah, I would say that the current dormitory, if you will, at Huney Hall holds 10 to maybe 12 people. And we would have a lot more capacity. I mean, I depending, because we'll have, instead of just one big room, we'll have 3 rooms that could be adjusted in size and activity. So I don't know, it'd certainly be triple, probably quadruple the number of people easily without even thinking about it.
Thank you.
That you had a few. I'll just make a quick comment. Well, I of course want to mirror all the comments about how beautiful it's looking. And the colors, et cetera. It looks very relaxing and very Northwest. I did want to point out, I assume that this project falls under our expedited permits program for our nonprofit.
Yes,
It would, yeah. So there's that. Hopefully that's helpful. I'd be open to talking about the council potentially contributing in some way, but I would suggest we try to avoid it as maybe a council contingency grant, for example, rather than reopening the question we've actually been around quite a bit on in waiving fees, which of course means we find the fee cost somewhere else. Just because there's so many situations where we need to, where we want to consider that. It's just Councilmember Land. Yeah, Councilmember Land.
Thank you. Just one last question, and this is something I should know, so I apologize to everyone if this has already been spoken about. So because of all the great planning for emergency hub, future hub activity and implementing things now or putting them into construction right now, I assume that there is already a contribution from the city for some of that work and design. There's nothing.
No, the process that we have, the memorandum of understanding, basically says that we are responsible for raising the money to design and build the building, that we will deed the building back to the city, and that the city will then, as we currently have an arrangement today, we will have rent-free use of the building for I think it's 30 years with 2 10-year extensions. In the current MOU, we'll be coming to you with a agreement when we need to get a land lease so that we can actually start to take action. But that's our current understanding. So yeah, that's it.
Councilmember Vantra Johnson.
Yeah, I'm going to make the motion. I move to forward the 90% design for the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center redevelopment to the May 26, 2026 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Nope, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Ne-
I think there was I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, we
oh,
were to approve.
To concur with our choice of Carly Construction as the contractor of record.
Will that need to be a motion?
If council can indicate concurrence, then we will put it in the motion that appears in the subsequent agenda.
Yeah, so moved.
Yes.
okay, do a formal motion and vote.
That would be great.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next item is 3B, present 2027 to 2028 economic outlook, assumptions and forecast. The beginning of our budget process.
That's right. Thank you very much. This study session item is a short briefing from the finance department to continue along our budget development process. We use this time to begin to set the stage for expectations as we work towards budget adoption this fall. The city is an organization with a suite of ongoing programs and services delivered by staff who all have a range of responsibilities. For this reason, making changes either to add or stop services or increase or decrease the level of service can have a ripple effect. We want you to understand this backdrop and our current forecast for revenue and expense categories as we prepare the budget. We're expecting that the most intensive We're expecting that after the most intensive work on the comp plan is done, we will have more time to discuss budget priorities with you. We're kind of tentatively looking at July 14th or the study session in July is a time where we might be able to do that with the council. But we want you to have this information as we enter into that time so that you can have that as context. The baseline or status quo budget is our starting place as it tells us all what we'd expect to spend and receive in a budget that continues forward the general level of service and capital investment that the city currently has. Our finance director, Dwayne Pitts, is here to step through the presentation and take any questions you might have. Thank you.
It's ready to go. Oh, there's a delay. Okay. Good evening, Council. Dwayne Pitts, Finance Director. Tonight, we continue our ongoing discussion of the 27 and 28 budget. Last month, we updated our budget policies, and tonight we're going to be discussing our proposed 27 and 28 baseline budget. In a nutshell, a baseline budget, often referred to as a status quo budget, provides a short and long-term forecast under using existing conditions, that is current staffing, current service levels, and the capital improvement plan already in place. We're going to spend a few more minutes in just a couple of minutes to talk about what it is included in that and what's excluded. But I also want to go over a couple of other things tonight before we get to sort of the meat of the presentation and the forecast. We're going to also touch base on our budget calendar, which we did last month, but we're going to go over it super briefly again. And then we're going to discuss some of the key external factors as we see it, or some of the risk things that are potentially could have a major impact on our budget. I want to propose that tonight is informational in nature. It provides a snapshot of the current financial outlook, and it uses existing conditions and projections at this point in time. It is likely going to change as conditions unfold and as we go throughout the year. It's not intended for deliberation or for budget changes or policy changes at this point in the game. There we go. Okay, looking ahead through June through August and all the way into September is really what I would refer to kind of as our sausage making part of the process, where internally we put together a proposed budget, which we will deliver to you in late September. Now, as you may recall from our last discussion, there are really 3 steps legally that we must follow in order to pass an adopted budget. First, we must present to you a proposed balanced budget by the end of September. That is, staff must do that to you, for you. And then we have to have a total of 3 public hearings, a preliminary budget hearing, a property tax hearing, and a final public hearing. And third, and of course, council needs to pass and adopt the budget before the end of the year. So, whoops, I went too far again. I wanted to provide a really high-level overview, kind of in a pie chart form, of where the money comes from and where it goes. And I'm using 2026 here as our example. Our modified budget in terms of revenue for 2026, that's our platform to project into the future, is about $53.4 million. As you can see, and when you look at that pie chart, the largest influx of money comes from taxes. That represents about 51% of our budget. The next largest area of inflow is utility charges for services, followed by intergovernmental revenues. What does that consist of? Mostly grants. And then finally, we have other fees and services, 6%, and that really is mostly permit fees and other governmental fees and charges. And that smallest slice of pie there is generally interest. As far as where the money goes, this does the same thing. I'm not going to go to every one of these pie slices here, but I'll touch on the top 4. The first 4 are salaries and benefits are about 44% of our budget. Capital is about another 18%. Other services and charges, which comprise 16%. What the heck is in that? Annual roads, facilities maintenance, insurance, repair and maintenance, and technology costs are all kind of bundled into that one. And then the 4th largest there is debt service. Okay, we already talked a little bit about this, so I won't touch on it too long, other than to identify the purpose of a baseline budget. The baseline budget really is the starting point. It provides a short-term forecast for 27 and 28, but it also gives a longer-term, taking a look at a longer-term forecast as well. And that really is to show how current spending decisions affect future financial capacity going forward and sustainability. It's likely, again, that some of our assumptions are going to change as the year unfolds. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the presentation tonight. We already touched upon this, so I'm going to move to the next slide here. What it excludes, it doesn't have any new operating or capital projects. It doesn't have any solutions on how to balance the budget. It doesn't have any emerging issues or priority. It already contains, by its nature, prior policy priorities, but it doesn't include any new ones. And it doesn't include any new one-time revenues, that is, new grants. It has existing grants that we are anticipating in the budget, but doesn't have any new ones. So let's talk about some of our key factors. I'm going to go over these just a little bit in more detail in a second, but I want to highlight what they are first. Inflation. We also have potential continued comp time delays and what that impact could look like. And then building and development services permit activity and looking at what it means if we don't achieve what we hope to there. But not all the news is bad. We want to give you a couple of positive indicators that we're seeing that we think has some potential positive outlook for us. 2 in particular come to mind. Sales tax for the first 4 months of the year and real estate excise tax are both up about 10%. So that's great news. This is a chart which I've shown council many times. It is the current Seattle area inflation. This is a chart. If you look at your graph there, it starts in April of 2023 and it goes all the way to today, which the last report that just came out last week shows inflation at 4.9%. You can see, if you're wondering what that little gap is down there at the bottom, that's the 2 months the federal government was closed and no information was available. But overall, you can see the trend is down, down, down until it hits a year ago, April of 25, when it was actually below 2%. And here we are back up at 4.9%. And of course, that has a major component of our budget is anticipating costs. So we need to take a look at inflation very closely to see how that's going to affect our costs. So we took a longer look. We looked back 30 years. This is the U.S. averages you're seeing here. And we looked at, last 30 years, inflation has hovered somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 2.5%. 20 years, same. 15 years, a little up. But then you see in the last 10 years, it starts jumping up to 3%. And then in the last 5 years, you see it jumping up to 4.5% there in red. So what does that mean? Well, we use modeling when we look out in the out years, and we use costs, inflators on our costs. And traditionally, we've used somewhere around 2% as our inflator on our costs to give us a long-term forecast. Well, that doesn't seem like it should be in play anymore. So we needed to adjust that. So adjust it we did, and we started to use 3% going forward in the out years. And what I mean by out years is beyond 27 and 28, not in the next forecast, which we're going to get to what our assumptions are in a minute. I don't want to belabor this one too much because I know there's been previous sessions about the potential delays and what it could mean for various things from grants and so forth. But I do want to touch, I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't at least point out to council that the items there in the middle of your screen are the ones that concern me the most. The likelihood, of course, is low. I think we're on the heels of getting our comp time passed. That looks like by all indications will be done in the next month. But I just wanted to point out that the two ones that come to mind here are sales tax and real estate excise tax. Those are about 44% of our total tax supported base revenue. So any delays or withholding of that would certainly have a major impact. So I wanted to point that out to council. Building development services. Well, yes, we passed. We went through a fee study last year and we raised rates to reflect the cost and service changes. And the first 4 months of this year, we are actually noticing that revenues are down. Activity is down by about 7%. Why that matters is the fund, as most council members, I believe, know, has been supported to the tune of $1 to $2 million per year. That comes from the general fund in forms of an interfund transfer. And our goal with enacting those fee increases is to get that level below $1 million a year at the end of 2028. So the chart you're seeing there are the revenues. The blue line are the actual revenues. The red dotted line there is the trend, which you can see is pretty darn flat. And I would point out that there was a moratorium going on as well as COVID between 2019, but the moratorium was between 2018, January 2018, all the way through April of 2021. So that may have some impact. And there's been a slow climb up, but I guess the point of this that I really wanted to impart is that it is unpredictable. And so we're keeping a very close eye on that because obviously that would mean potentially more transfers to the fund to support it. This is a chart that we've shown council every time we've done the budget, I think. The far right represents our baseline right now. It's at 141.3 FTEs, and that's what we are assuming here in our baseline budget. We used 2008 as our high water mark when staffing was the highest. That was at 153.5, and what you can see is we are still 8% below where we were at that high water mark, but we certainly have climbed out of the cellar, which was 2013. So now we're going to touch upon our assumptions. We're only going to touch on tax supported revenue assumptions here, and we're only going to touch on the top 5. These 5 encompass about 75% of our total tax supported revenues. Well, about 73 actually, but what this and the ones marked there in red are the ones that have potential impacts of delays in comp time. So I just wanted to point that out. And what you'll see on this slide is kind of the volatility over the last few years, the last 5 years, the lows and the highs, property tax being very, very stable. The others have a little more volatility in it, in particular with REIT and investment, real estate excise tax and investment revenues. So where we landed there in our baseline budget is we are assuming property tax will climb at a steady the 0.75 on top of the 1% cap by law is new construction, but the rest we've assumed at 3%. And this is what that looks like numerically, but it's the same information with the 3% attached to each of those numbers other than property tax. On our expense assumptions, with our largest labor contract settled, we have a pretty good idea of what our labor contract and labor costs are going to look like over the next couple of years. But the one we spent more time on is adjusting that other operating one. We bumped it up to 4%. You might ask yourself, well, if we just saw 4.9%, why aren't you raising it more? Well, we may get there. We wanted another quarter because last quarter it was 3.9. This quarter it's 4.9. So we're seeing our next report comes out in July for June, and we're going to see what that does. And if that trend continues, we probably will need to bump the other operating cost assumptions up another %. And finally, we get to our 10-year forecast. We only use the general fund. There are certainly a large number of tax-supported funds in which we could look at, but this is our biggest fund. It has the most revenues and expenses going through it, and it is our major operating account of the city. So as goes the general fund, so goes the rest of the tax-supported funds as a rule. So I want to point out that we use, as I just said, 4% for expenses for assumptions for 27 and 28, and 3%, as I said earlier, in the out years. And the bar represents the expenses and the line represents the revenues. So as you can see, last year, we pretty much just broke even. It was, and I should point out that the dark blue are operating expenses and the colored ones above that are transfers out of the fund to other funds to support those funds, like building and development services, like streets, like capital improvement fund, which has capital projects in it. So I will kind of spare you the details, but what you're seeing over 10 years is kind of a slow bleed, I would call it. We are certainly financially solvent and kind of going, treading water for the next couple of years for sure, and pretty much for the next 4 years. And then there's kind of a slow bleed after that, all the way out to 10 years. If you're wondering when we might have our reserves that is our policy reserves affected, that would probably not happen until late 2020 under the current assumptions, 2033 or 2034. So quite a ways out. Moving on to the water fund. This is kind of a funky looking chart here, but what that shows you on the far left are the big capital projects. That's what the color is on the graph. And we, of course, issued bonds last year to pay for that. But I think what I want you to point out to you is that you see our revenues are very close to our operating expenses. And by the way, that lighter blue bar there is debt service from the issuance of that bond, of those bonds and other loans that we have outstanding. But what you will see there over time is that we don't really start building back until 2029, 2030. In fact, we get pretty close to our reserves around 29, 2030, but we should be fine until we start building fund balance again. Every 3 years, as required by policy, we will look at the utility funds to make sure that they continue on the right path and make sure that they remain solvent for years to come. Again, the sewer fund has a lot of major projects going on there. That's why you're seeing that bar way above. You're seeing the operating expenses below the revenue lines, which is good, but you're seeing the colored lines, the dark olive bars there go above it, and that's anticipated capital projects in the sewer fund. So if you're wondering when we would start bleeding down to come close to our reserves there, that would be around the year 2031. And finally, we get to stormwater fund, which is, I would say, very healthy. We have a major project in 2026 in Springbrook, but we also have another project in 2029 at the Isaiah Creek Culvert replacement. So kind of recapping and summing this all up, what does all this tell us? Well, our recurring revenues and ongoing costs are in balance. As a baseline effort, at least at this point in time, until we make any assumption changes. It reflects a very stable structural starting point for the forecast. And I would say that our current approach supports maintaining existing service levels. And then the last thing I just wanted to point out is that one-time spending should be reviewed kind of on a case-by-case basis. I think if you were to talk to our public works director, he would tell you that he has a pretty full palette of projects right now already in existing. And so we would want to evaluate any new projects in context of the ones that are already on the books to make sure we have the capacity and the funds to be able to support that. And that concludes my comments. I look forward to your discussion.
Councilmember Matthews?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Thank you so much, Director Pitts. I just have a couple questions. This is a baseline budget, and so we're gonna do questions, right? You're not gonna answer all at once, right? You're gonna,
I am supportive of asking questions and answering them at the
Okay.
same time.
okay.
I think
just
it's
so I know.
actually easier usually on the speaker and
Okay.
it helps us better, so.
Okay, all right. So, what other types of budgets might there be if we were not going to be going with a baseline budget? Are there like emergency budgets or, what would be another option be?
Well, the budget in the fall would be one where we would actively take your input about what changes we might want to make to the existing budget. Think of this as like, this is the budget we have right now.
Okay.
And then I'm just using that to forecast forward, if that makes sense.
Yep,
And the one in the fall has the current council's imprint on it with any potential changes they might want to make. Hopefully, we would make those when we propose the budget with you with input and discussion here. We would take back that and reflect any potential changes to the budget that we're, germinating on over the summer, and then bring back to you what we think that you want. And so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. What would be some emerging issues?
I think really those are policy related types of things that you like, maybe the discussion you had earlier tonight as an example, an emerging issue about whether to support a seat. That's brand new. That's obviously not in the current existing budget, and one that you would need to contemplate on and decide as a whole whether that was something that you wanted to pursue and potentially change the budget.
Okay, perfect. And then I did not know that so the good news is that I know we're seeing, I think our real estate industry is having a boom again. So there's not really a lot of inventory. Things are moving very quickly. I had no idea that REIT was, if the comp plan could affect our receiving REIT payments. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's in state law. We actually looked it up, and
Wow.
yeah, we were combing through it as we were preparing our budget. And I go, well, I know we've talked a lot about loans and grants and things of that nature, but I wasn't sure that I had ever heard
Wow.
that being brought up. And I saw it, I referenced the code
Yeah.
there that you can go look for yourself, but it's definitely there.
Okay, yeah, and then my last is maybe for interim city manager, is if it would be possible, because I see we have the 3 public hearings. Thank you so much. We have the 3 public hearings which allow the public to come give feedback and engage. Council or Deputy Mayor Hytopoulos, Councilmember Schneider, and I attended several years ago, WASELI, which was the the Washington Collaborative Institute. And I remember some other jurisdictions having really cool public engagement around their budgeting. And so I was wondering if maybe we could explore having a couple, either like a lunch and learn on the budget session or a beer and budget, beer, non-alcoholic or alcoholic beer, where folks can come here or the rowing center or another place and really engage with the budget. There were a couple other gamification sort of things where folks were actually moving things into different pictures and engaging with the budget. But just thinking that this might be a really great opportunity for some non-traditional forms of public outreach, because it's, budgeting isn't really sexy, it's just budgeting. And so a way to get folks engaged would be great. And then also having a dedicated microsite or budget page, so folks can follow along as we're going through the process. Those were my.
Yes, well, I do have to say that I find budgets super exciting and really interesting. So I would beg to differ there. I'll also chime in to say the baseline budget is really to help staff, council, and the community understand that the same service costs more to deliver next year. So if you think that you're going to have the same people, the same services, and your revenue doesn't increase as much as your expenses, then you're actually in a position where you're cutting in order to provide those same services. And so that's what the baseline or status quo budget is supposed to help us with. And then in terms of public engagement, absolutely, we would welcome the public's engagement. And we've had lots of different tries before, but we're going to keep trying to get folks to come in. So I welcome your suggestions on that.
Councilmember Nelson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I'd first just say I would welcome any kind of deep dive into the budget to really look at it as deeply as we can. But that's down the road. I think a couple questions I have is, does this baseline budget, does this contemplate any kind of tax increases at this time?
No,
No. Okay.
it's using existing revenues that are already in existence.
Okay, that's helpful. And then the other one is, as far as a sort of capital improvement that was noted here and there, uh, does that include any kind of upgrading of like the wastewater treatment plant to do the sort of tertiary treatment to allow for wastewater beneficial reuse?
I don't believe a tertiary treatment reuse is in the current existing plan. There are certainly a fair number of existing projects in wastewater that we issued bonds for that are in the plan, and I'm sure our Public Works Director could comment on that more. But we do have, if you look at our capital improvement plan, there are a number of projects in existence that are improvements to the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Lant?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I guess I mostly have just a comment, which feels that I so appreciate the snapshot of where we're at. And it really shows that if we do nothing, next year won't look like this year. So we're going to have to start thinking about doing something, and whether that is doing more, doing less with more, or doing less with less, or finding other sources of income streams. It's just going to be a really busy and maybe some difficult decision making to be happening in the future. So between the uncertainty on the federal level, the millionaire's tax, if it goes forward with that, I mean, it kind of, we spoke briefly or emailed briefly about this, just some potential changes to municipal income. And it may not be a big deal, but it's another snapshot of one little source of income that is changing that we have no control over. So just, you've gave me lots to think about, so I appreciate it.
So I just had a question and probably like one comment. So what I was trying to understand is, how is it that, I think it was the general fund, but how is it that we don't start tapping reserves until, I think it was like 2033 or 34, but it looked like expenses were exceeding revenues for a while before then, like 5 years or something?
The simple answer is we are way above our reserves right now. So our policy reserves, as you may recall, we are required to have 25% of ongoing revenues plus a now $1.5 million. We just upped that last month. It used to be $1 million emergency. So we estimate that kind of grows with the revenues as well. So if you want to use a snapshot in time, it's just south of $9 million is the required reserves. But right now we are at about $18.5 million. So we are above that. And so it will take a while to kind of bleed that down to hitting our policy required reserves.
So it sounds like we could be living beyond our means for a while and not feeling it. And if we're not paying attention, I mean, we're on a bad trajectory. I mean, because is this fund balance, or like, in other words, it's not budgeted. It sounds like it's
That's
not that
right.
we'd be living on some excess that we fortunately created above our minimum reserves.
Yeah, and that's a really
And-
good point.
yeah.
And part of the reason why we show that 10-year look is to say, so you generally think of budgeting, you think of one-time expenses, capital comes into nature, you spend it, you're done with the project, you're done with the cost, versus ongoing, like labor. You know, you added somebody to the budget, they're going to continue in perpetuity over time. So the purpose of looking at a 10-year, our former city manager, I know, he was always like, you know, you're not Nostradamus, you can't predict out 10 years. Yes, that's true. But what you can do is project the long-term trajectory of current decisions, especially if they're ongoing decisions, and see what the impacts are.
So my couple of comments would just be along the lines of what Councilmember Lant is saying. I mean, I take this seriously, and I certainly sat a little more comfortably in the past when we had, you know, a longer, more reserves projected way out. We got pretty close to the, you know, different city managers, different styles. That's okay. I understand if you're sitting on some city money and it could be used, there's a philosophy to use it. But with the times we're in, with what we're looking at here, And with things that aren't in this budget, like I would say, and I think, I mean, in a way that's, I mean, Councilman Nelson was going there asking about tertiary treatment, but just looking at the groundwater management plan, it certainly seems like we're going to have to be doing some major infrastructure work to properly deal with our water, whether it's distribution, reuse, et cetera. So that's just one thing that we are aware of that isn't in here. And the last thing I'd say, which is something positive, is just that I know in the past we have had some cool budget stuff like visualizations for the public to really understand. One of the most important things for the public to understand perennially is that our discretionary portion of our budget is very small, as well as the fact that our portion of their tax bill, their property tax bill, is very small. Anyone else? Yeah, Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you for that point, because often when people will buy something and pay for services and we get a sales tax, and that's going to the city, we get a small portion of that. Would you mind going through that pie chart of how the sales tax is distributed on Bainbridge Island?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have the pie chart with me, but I can tell you it's about 1% of the close to 10%, that we pay. So.
Okay, did staff want any more direction at this point? I know the director had mentioned something about maybe we're going to start, and maybe that's an organized idea, not today, start giving some feedback so that over the summer it was percolating.
Certainly, we are happy to meet with you, and the finance director and I would be happy to sit down individually with any council member who wanted to start a deep dive or a shallow dive into the budget. And then I'll work with the deputy mayor and the mayor to set a time for a more consolidated discussion so that you guys can all hear each other's ideas. But we're just trying to make this a set of stepping stones across the river, or whatever analogy you want to use, but take one step at a time so that the information that the finance director provides you is a little bit at a time rather than a whole giant deluge. And when we get to the fall, then we'll be ready to work together towards approving the budget.
I do want to put a plug in for something that I know we don't have the capacity for, and it's something but we might need to have the capacity for. It's something that Councilmember Lant has tried to push for since she's gotten here. And that is some sort of a retreat day to talk about priorities. And so even as out of one side of my mouth, I'm saying, ooh, we can't do anything. On the other hand, it makes it all the more important. And for a whole biennium to be going into the budget and not have done that kind of check-in kind of concerns me. So I hope that we could kind of have that floating out there, something we could at least look at some ability to do.
Certainly, if that council wants to start thinking about planning that, I'm happy to work with you on that.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing else? Next item, and thank you very much, Director. Next item is 3C, consider environmental element of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Council. We're moving now to the part of the meeting where we'll discuss elements of the comprehensive plan. Here again, we're trying to do a couple of elements at a time so that we can get through them easily. This past week, we were able to send out the elements in advance that are on today's calendar, and a couple of you did provide motions which are included in the packet. I also wanted to put in a plug again to please raise your hand high when you vote, so the clerk and I have an easier time recording the votes. I saw that already today, and we really appreciate it as we put together the minutes. And I imagine when we get to motions, that will be extra helpful to us. The first element for discussion tonight is the environmental element of the comprehensive plan. This item has only minor changes in the proposed update that you've received to date. We as the city expect that we will do a very thorough revision of this element for the next update of the comprehensive plan, because we'll be adding a climate element, some of which will come from this element. But for this year, there are limited changes that are shown in the version that's in your packet. I'll turn this now over to Darren Buchanan, our interim planning director, who will introduce the changes. There are also motions related to this element submitted from council members Lant and Nelson, which are shown on pages 72 and 74 in the packet. And we received one updated version of these motions from Councilmember Lant. So that language is also available. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Interim City Manager. Darren Buchanan, Interim Planning Director. We start tonight with the environmental element, and while it's not a required element of the Growth Management Act, it has been a longstanding part of our comprehensive plan for many years now. This element was considered by the Planning Commission and approved as presented on February 12th, 2026. The environmental element strives to address the natural environment of Bainbridge Island through many goals and policies that address a wide variety of topics, including climate change, noise, sustainability, habitat. It also addresses natural resources like our forests, our agricultural lands, our trails, our air quality. Citizens of Bainbridge Island enjoy and value the island's natural environments, and that environment adds to the quality of life here on the island. The city has made substantial work regarding climate change, including climate action plan, as well as a 2024 sea level rise vulnerability and risk assessment, references of which have been suggested to be added to the environmental element as well. Preserving and protecting our natural resources and amenities is an important component of the vision of Bainbridge Island. The proposed updates are once again to reflect the updated planning period and any changes and conditions, updated information since 2017. A few changes of note are to promote sustainable consumption with city operations, to coordinate the strategies and actions of the climate action plan, as well as to maximize opportunities for agricultural practices that could help mitigate impacts to climate change as well.
Thank you. Council? Councilmember Lant, you want to start through your motions?
I'll get started. So I was running through, I was on a bit of a time crunch, and I was trying to review all of these elements that we're looking at this evening. And some of my motions are truly just kind of housekeeping things. Every time I saw the word citizen, I would like to replace it with individual, for example, things like that. And even in my motions, I got those wrong too. So just it's so easy to do.
And could I interrupt you for 1 second? I think you have the most motions. Councilmember Nelson just really has pointing out kind of a typo. I don't know if anybody else really has. Okay, didn't know whether we want to go around and then wind up with Laura, like continuing hers, or would you rather do that? Or, because I think you have like 10.
Yeah.
Does that work? Okay,
Still round off.
at the end, you'll just like have to zip through them.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, all good. Okay, so I'll start off with my first motion. This is policy EN 5.9. This is mostly just adding some other agencies into this existing policy. So my motion, I move to develop in coordination with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Suquamish Tribe, the Bainbridge Island Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, the Bainbridge Island Land Trust, and private parks such as Blodell and Islandwood, a program to educate individuals of the island, particularly those individuals who reside adjacent to priority wildlife habitat, on ways to utilize private property in a manner that will help protect and enhance wildlife habitat.
Second.
Discussion? Councilmember.
I guess I wanted to look at who you're adding in, and it's the Suquamish Tribe and
The Suquamish Tribe and private parks such as Blodell and Islandwood.
And I guess I just want to know if you've already talked to them about being included in this?
Because they are already providing educational support services, in my mind anyway, I just naturally included them because they're already somewhat doing the work. And I think they partner with us and would like to when they have an opportunity.
Yeah, I think I would like to know that they're invested, I guess. I don't know.
Councilmember Matthews?
Are we just doing?
Oh, right
motion?
now we're discussing and then we'll vote on the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm willing to amend this motion to note how about this other agencies, other private agencies without naming individuals? Okay.
Would you be leaving the tribe and then adding other private? Would you be leaving the tribe? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, and other agencies?
Right. Yep.
Private, yeah. So is it, okay, so can you read it so that we've got a
Absolutely.
motion?
Absolutely. So policy EN 5.9 as amended, develop in coordination with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Suquamish Tribe, the Bainbridge Island Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, the Bainbridge Island Land Trust, and other agencies and other private agencies a program to educate the individuals of the island, particularly those individuals who reside adjacent to priority wildlife habitat, on ways to utilize private property in a manner that will help protect and enhance wildlife habitat.
And, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so just very simply, you're just adding a few more groups to join in this party. That's all this simply is.
And we had
So
already
that's
called.
that's so hard.
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah, we've got a second. So I think, are we ready to call the question?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Matthews.
Sure. Mine, first, I'll just go in order. Yeah, policy EN 6.1. Minimize public and private losses due to flood conditions by limiting development in frequently flooded areas as shown on the flood insurance rate maps. Educate property owners and residents in proximity to frequently flooded areas about vulnerability over time, and encourage realtors to include this information in their listings and educate their clients.
Second.
So you read that with your.
With my change, sorry.
Do we have a copy of your, of your?
So I am so sorry. I actually did, I had to run to New York this
Yeah.
weekend to get a little award at my high school, and I didn't have a chance to send these.
I have a recommendation for the future, even if we bring them the
Yeah.
day of. One thing is a red line would be
Okay.
really helpful. So, I mean, because otherwise we have to go hunt and peck what's
Oh, I'm
changed,
sorry.
and it
Okay.
gives us less confidence. And you want people who even, and this goes to Laura
Yeah.
too, anybody. Then if someone didn't read it or something, at least maybe
Yeah.
you can still bring them along.
I
And
can
so,
verbally maybe say the
yeah,
red
let's try
line.
that.
Okay, about vulnerability over time, then the red line, the only change
Okay.
was and encourage realtors to include this information in their listings and educate clients and consumers. That's the only difference.
And this is six.
This is 6.1, because it seems like it's such a gap that we have.
I understand all she did. Things matter.
A second.
I'm just thinking from a legal perspective and some other things. I just don't know.
This is encouraged.
Well, I don't even know if that's legally something that they should do, that we should be asking them to do. I don't know. And I don't know if it really put a city attorney on the spot for that question as to whether there's anything concerning about adding that we would add to this policy about flooding and so forth, that we would encourage realtors to.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of Point
note in
Monroe.
Listings.
On the sand spit, and homes are frequently sold and bought there, and folks have no idea that they are buying into a floodplain.
I do not see any legal issue with encouraging the realtors to include
Yeah.
that. Where there's not a mandate, it's a request.
And I guess my concern is just not knowing, I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Put this hat off. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, of course, that's great. I don't know what the rules and laws are. I mean, you do, but that govern realtors and so forth. So I don't know if we're stepping on toes, if we're overlapping their ethical obligations, what they're governed by. And so I don't know. I'm not sure I want to vote for it because I just don't like the idea
Yeah.
of full disclosure, but I don't know that I want to get involved in.
Yeah, it's not a hill I'm gonna die on. It's
So anyway, and I'm just one vote anyway.
Yeah.
Did you want to comment on that?
I just want to comment. Yeah, this is really kind of difficult because, when I was looking at your motions, first of all, I hadn't realized what the red lines were, right? And so I'm slashing and burning and going, rah, 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 and then I went, oh, these are already in there. So, there's a part of me that would love to slash and burn what's already in there because it feels like there's too many words. And so but we're not at that, we're not there right now, that would have been a while ago. I think that it is an aspirational document. And I think it is important for us to put out there what we would like to see. And so if we would like to see realtors giving a heads up and a reality check, I'll support it. Even though it seems a little weird that we'd be trying to tell realtors what to do. Thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little taken off guard, so I'm not quite sure how to think about it, but I guess I'm trying to understand how would that look? Is that sort of putting an obligation on the city to send this information to realtors, or is it putting some obligation on realtors to check this and send it to clients? Because I think the way it reads now, it's sort of we put that information out there to residents and potential buyers. So I guess I'm just kind of on the fence because I'm not sure what this does or how that looks.
Sorry, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we're going too far into weeds on this. We're not coming up with the programs. We're not dictating how that may be working or implemented. This is, as Councilmember Schreider says, aspirational and goals. And I think Councilmember Matthews came up with something rather brilliant. And the important word is they're encouraged. There is no mandate. There's no direction. The realtors must do this or should do this even. It's just encourage. And it's a smart thing because, our citizens they buy homes and they should know of that information before they buy a house. And I don't know if if we're doing the education, we probably have a map that shows typically flooded areas. So if a homeowner is interested, they could look at our information. But I think Councilman Matthews is spot on in that you're just encouraging realtors to share this information. You're selling the property. You should at least just let them know you're in a floodplain. I don't think that's and also I'll just underline again the word encourage. There is no should even in this. It's just an idea to get the word out. Another place to educate property owners. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I won't be voting for it because I feel like we're overstepping into someone else's profession, but any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm opposed. You can count the votes. All right. Motion carries 6-1. Next would be, should we go to Councilmember Nelson with his just point about, I think it looks like some language that was left in, and you may have other motions. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll probably make a couple other motions, but I think the point maybe speaks for itself, and I guess it's just a question for the deputy city manager. And now I'm trying to find the language here. Let's see. Which was under forest lands. Okay, Ian 14. It just says proposed language to make sure that the paragraph below is on BI. Does anyone know what that language is in there for?
A question. Did you say EN 14?
No, it's on page.
On page EN 14.
Thank you.
It says under the caption.
Under forest lands.
It says
Right.
proposed language to make sure that, yeah, it looks. But should.
I think that this is language that needs to be cleaned up in the final version. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, then I move to propose, or I move to strike the words proposed language to make sure that the paragraph below is on BI on page EN 14 under forest lands.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Presumably not. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. All right, we're going to come back to for any other motions, Councilmember Nelson, because we're going to go around again. And so we'll go to Councilmember Lant.
All right, thank you. My next motion in regards policy EN 10.4. I will read the original version first. The original version is cooperate with the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency in providing information to the community about available and innovative emission controls for residential, commercial, vehicular, and light industrial use. My motion is simply to add, to strike cooperate and add support and assist the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency in providing information to the community about available and innovative emission controls to residential, commercial, vehicular, and light industrial use.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, that to me sounds more like we're gonna put some funds behind it. Whereas cooperate doesn't sound like there's money attached.
No.
If I may respond to that, I am one of the liaisons for the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. And so the word support I didn't mean financial support. I meant cooperative regional approach to.
Yeah.
But more than cooperate, be a partner, partnership, support and assist.
Yeah.
Doesn't
let's-
have to be financial, but it can be everything but financial, as a matter of fact, but much more than cooperate. Cooperate feels like we're doing it under duress.
Yeah. Councilmember Matthews?
Just.
Yeah, we're
oh,
just talking on
still
that because
done.
we're,
Yeah,
Okay.
your explanation makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so I support. Yeah.
and I agree. I saw right away what you're doing. I think you're saying that it feels like we're not just,
Yeah,
we're not just because we're being regulated. We're
Mhm.
saying this is
Repeat.
something we want to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Yeah.
Can we say it more plain so we understand the cooperate is not financial?
I don't see it as myself as having to be financial.
I mean, if we're saying, I like the assist part, but.
Well, we,
Deputy Mayor.
yeah, I would get Councilmember Schneider.
I just wanted to point out again that in looking at this, I was a little worried initially by some of the proposed changes that we would be getting into, okay, what's the budget support for all this? But then I read a lot of the, language of the stuff that's already in there. And there's a lot of language like that. So I don't think we need to be particularly worried about, again, we can, yeah, so I mean, I support it. I don't think we're committing ourselves to dollars and cents.
I think, we're signaling this commitment. So like, let's say the Climate Advisory Committee wanted to take on something related to this. And it shows this is something that we've actually documented as something that we want to do. So I think that's its value. All right, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, and Councilmember Matthews,
Yep.
do you have one?
I do. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And for clarity, I'm going to first read the current. It's EN action number 7, which was evaluate the reasons why the city's PDR and TDR programs have not been successful and explore ways to make them functional to meet city objectives. My only change would be, I feel like the mayor would be using the words here. So evaluate the reasons why the city's purchase of development rights and transfer of development rights programs, instead of saying have not been successful, I would like to change it to have been underutilized and explore ways to make them functional to meet city.
Could you tell us where it is? Because so we can look at it, it's
Sure.
going to make a big difference.
It's EN action number.
Now I see, okay.
7.
That's on page EN.
Oh, I'm
19.
sorry.
That's
It's
helpful.
on EN 18, I believe.
It's on EN 19. okay.
19.
And it- mhm.
And it's highlighted
Right.
green, third down from the top of the page.
So could you reread what your proposed language is
Yep.
once we're all there?
My proposed change is only changing the PDR and TDR to the actual, which it says right below, but I think it's just, you should be able to see it immediately. So the purchase of development rights and transfer of development rights, and the have not been successful just seems so, this is something that's on Planning Commission's
Okay.
parking lot to work on once the comprehensive plan is completed. And so it's not that they haven't been successful, they've been underutilized. And I think it's something that we're looking, I don't want to speak for the whole council, but it's a tool that we want to use.
Okay, is there a second? Have we had a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Makes sense to me. It seems like from a grammar perspective, we could then do TDRs in parentheses and then use the from thereafter
Yep.
in as the abbreviations immediately under. Okay, so all those in favor?
Oh, wait.
Sorry, I thought I said do any discussion. Sorry, Councilmember
Yeah.
Nelson.
Sorry, I had my hand up. What do you change? What are you trying to change besides have not been successful? Are you changing that wording too?
Just they have not been successful, changing to one word, underutilized.
So have been
Have been
underutilized.
underutilized.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm supportive. Thank you.
Okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Councilmember Nelson, did you say that you were going to have a motion? Go ahead.
Yes, hold on one sec. Let me find it. I wanted to make a motion about adding something about tertiary treatment. So I would like to, so go to page EN3 under goal EN1. I move to add policy EN 1.9, which reads, consider upgrading the Winslow wastewater treatment plant to provide for tertiary wastewater treatment and the beneficial reuse of wastewater.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm still lost.
Okay.
I didn't get there fast
It's
enough.
page EN3.
Okay.
I can
Or if
read
it-
it again.
Policy would be under,
Oh, it's a new one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thank
So,
you.
it would- yeah.
Deputy Mayor, would you like me to read that again?
Would you like it read again? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so it would be policy EN 1.9, a new policy. Consider upgrading the Winslow wastewater treatment plant to provide for tertiary wastewater treatment and the beneficial reuse of wastewater.
Okay, and we have a second on that. No further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're back to Councilmember Lant.
Sorry, the extreme motion maker here. Okay, we're going to go to policy EN 10.8. The original language says encourage the retrofit or replacement of non-certified wood stoves with certified appliances. My motion is to amend this with using guidance from the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, encourage and promote the retrofit of replacement or encourage the, let me start over again. Using guidance from the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, encourage and promote the retrofit or replacement of non-certified wood stoves with certified appliances. So adding Puget Sound Clean Air Agency and adding encourage and promote.
You have a second?
And the number again, I'm sorry.
EN 10.8.
Bottom of page 9. And I will say, I did look up to make sure, made sense, that agency actively does that. So I don't think we have to worry about that. Councilmember Schneider?
Thank you. I guess I'm just obviously I trust the Clean Air Agency, but I just am a little like, why do we have to give the how, you know? I mean, what if there was some other guidance that, you know, we wanted to follow? So I think it reads pretty well the way it was. So I'd prefer not to change it, even as much as I respect that organization.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my
Councilmember Fenton.
point, exactly. I don't want to limit us to just the one agency. Somebody may come along and we don't want to just.
Okay, and Councilmember Nelson? Did you-
Yeah, I agree with council members Schneider and Fontre Johnson. I think that it works the way it is now, and we don't have to sort of cabin ourselves to only following that guidance because there may be better guidance that comes out in the future. So, yeah, I think I would prefer to leave it as is.
Okay, and Councilmember Lant, did you want to speak to it again?
I guess my only, and again, as Councilmember Matthews has said, it's like not the hill I'm going to die on. However, the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency is the agency that is actively rebating old wood stoves, and we actually have that information in our, I think the climate plan talks about it, but it's also on our website as well. And to my knowledge, they are the regulating agency that we work with and responds to other things like EPA issues as well. So to my mind, they are kind of the local leader in this, but again, we can leave it as broad as we like.
Before we vote, I will say, I agree with you. And I think that they are the lead agency and I'm comfortable with it. Councilmember Schneider?
I mean, I guess I could reconsider if we're looking at this like there's a shortcut here. Like we're trying to, somebody who is looking at this that's not really involved, if they want to know where to go to get it, it's kind of like a hyperlink, right? So I guess I'm fine. I could support it.
Mayor Marwaki.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I appreciate what Councilmember Nelson said. It is just a simple encourage retrofit, and I think being so specific, there's so many ways to encourage. We could encourage through rebates. We could encourage through, some new technology. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be through Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. And there's also, even though they're a regional one, I don't have a lot of faith in our current administration, but typically the national EPA really cares about this stuff. So there are other agencies so I just think we're just encouraging folks to do that because it will help clean our air. And I just think keeping it simple the way it is probably the best way to go. I understand Councilmember Lance's point there. It's well taken. I don't disagree with it, but on this simple phrasing, I think this is perfectly fine as it is.
Okay, I guess I would add, I think I'm going to be voting for it because, and for one thing, I think along the line of, what your motions have been generally is trying to kind of give them a little bit more teeth and show our real commitment. And I think that since that's the guidance we would use right now, I like that. I also don't know that this precludes us from using other guidance. I suppose if it was in conflict, it would. But hopefully, it wouldn't be. So, any more discussion?
I commend you for I think you're representing well the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. You are a liaison to that. And so I appreciate you bringing this forward. And so I can support it. I think it doesn't limit things. So as long as it's not limiting, I don't see any problem with calling them out.
And it's not an ordinance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Okay.
All right. So Councilmember Nelson and Mayor Marwaki voting no. It passes 5-2. Okay. And Councilmember
Yep.
Matthews.
Okay, so this is on page EN 19 and it's EN action number 9. And this is going to be probably similar to Councilmember Lance, but so it read, coordinate with other agencies to promote safe and sustainable pest and weed management. And then goal EN 14 is collaborate with the Kitsap County Noxious Weed Board and other relevant agencies and organizations to develop and maintain a plan to remove and control invasive plant and animal species, as well as prepare for vulnerability to future invasive plant and animal species resulting from climate change and international commerce. I just wanted to add the Kitsap Public Health District to that, because that's what we deal with, is the pests, and that's that's the body who, for instance, if somebody's having a conflict here on Bainbridge Island with a neighbor over, for instance, goats or too many, that's who comes out and does the inspection, and that's who we deal with. So I think we should name them.
Second is, if I understand, you're just adding that.
Yep, so I'm just adding, the only difference is collaborate with the Kitsap County Noxious Weed Board,
And,
Kitsap Public Health District, and other relevant agencies.
yeah, and I seconded that.
And you
Just because would you mind repeating it in your amended motion?
So my amended motion is goal EN 14, collaborate with the Kitsap County Noxious Weed Board. Here's my only part, Kitsap Public Health District. That's the only word I added different. And then it continues, and other relevant agencies.
Okay, Councilmember Evangelist Johnson.
And you're changing that because the animal species, that part.
Is regulated, rodent control and species are regulated through the Kitsap Public Health
And the
District.
noxious weed is only for plants.
Exactly.
Okay, any further discussion? Oh, sorry. Yep.
I would just point out that the motion is to change the language of goal EN 14 under EN action number 9, but you'll note that is the goal, that is EN 14 above. or sorry, 14 point. The point is it takes goal EN 14 on page EN 11 and restates it under the action item. So I think what you actually want to amend is goal EN 14 on page EN 11.
Yes, you're right. It's goal EN 14. Sorry about, just got the page.
Yeah, go up to page EN 11 under invasive species. It lists the goal in bold. It's restating that goal. And so I think the change that you want is that goal itself. And then it should be restated the same down below.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both should be changed. Yes, exactly.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Nelson.
Okay, wait. Councilmember Lance? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I like your motion, and just for giggles, I wanted to read mine just to see if we might have a merging of the minds on this.
Okay.
So this is also goal EN 14. And I had some discussions with Deb Rudnick and some email exchange with Laura Reiser as well, kind of a group email to kind of reduce the size of the original goal number 1. But in any case, my motion would be to change the goal to promote healthy and resilient landscapes by controlling and reducing invasive species in collaboration with relevant agencies and organizations such as the Kitsap Weed Board, the Bainbridge Island Cooperative Weed Management Area, the Kitsap Public Health District, and others. I just threw that one in.
Yeah.
And the idea behind removing noxious weed specifically from some of this is that invasive species include noxious weeds, but there's other things as well.
So I think we may want to take that separately. There's a lot there.
Right.
I'm actually having a pretty hard, I went through them more easily and I hadn't gotten to this one with the anywheres, was able to compare, but this is kind of complicated. I don't know if anyone else agrees. We can always add the health district here and then move on and have a little bit more discussion of what exactly is happening there. I mean, so we have a motion on the table. So why don't we, it sounds like not inconsistent with Councilmember Lance's proposal to just go ahead and throw that in there. I actually would not, and I would not pull it down into EN 14.1 because that is about actual eradication of invasive species. So that's the, that's different. That's going to be like weed warriors and who knows who. So let's leave 14.1 alone. And I think the motion on the table really was anyway, and to be clear for the clerk, it is goal EN 14 and you'll provide the.
Yep.
And all we're doing is adding comma.
Yep. Kitsap Public Health District, because that's the body that deals with the pests.
So can we vote on that?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Point of information.
Sorry.
Are we voting on an amended motion that's goal EN 14 instead of the goal underneath the action item?
I was looking, yes, we were voting on the goal. I'm not sure about action. I see policy EN 14.1. Where's the action item?
The original motion cited goal in EN 14 underneath EN action number 9. EN 19. So I wanted to confirm that we're voting on changing the goal itself and not the restatement of the goal underneath EN action number 9.
Yeah.
But that's, okay, I'm totally confused. That looks like that's about seismic activity.
No, would you cite your page?
Yeah, what page are you talking about, Councilmember Nelson?
I'm talking about the original goal is on page EN 11.
Okay.
Right, on page EN 11, right under invasive species, it says goal EN 14, and that's the collaborate with the Kitsap County Noxious Weed Board. And then because what Councilmember Matthews originally cited was the restating of that goal under EN action number 9 on page EN 19.
Okay, so can we add it in both? Is that possible?
Yeah.
We all have a
Yeah,
moment to add it?
Yeah.
EN 19. Sorry, I want to go
On page EN 11.
Because it restates the goal underneath
Mhm.
the action item.
Okay, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I mean, a motion simply, it's the same language. Just cite the two different goals in the motion on E. Just cite the pages and we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps restate the motion or make a new motion.
Okay, I'll make so I move to add the words Kitsap Public Health District after Kitsap County Noxious Weed Board to both goal EN 14 on page EN 11 and okay, I'm getting there. And so I get the right one. Okay, and action item, EN action number 9 on page EN 19.
Second.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Do we want to, I think it's Councilmember Nelson's turn if he has a motion, and if not, we'll come back around to Councilmember Lant, and we could just take this one up even if it's out of order, so we're thinking about it. Councilmember Nelson?
Nothing further from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lant, let's talk through, I think I'm confused because now I'm realizing maybe you were talking down, there's something different about them, about climate and stuff. They're slightly different, aren't they?
So for goal EN 14, I was viewing it more through the lens of reduction and controlling of invasive species, both weeds and animals and any species of anything. But doing it in a my goal, my restatement of goal EN 14 was, again, it was taking out the word collaborate and instead use the words promote healthy and resilient landscapes by controlling and reducing invasive species in collaboration with others. But we are doing it, we're promoting it ourselves first. It's our goal. We're not just collaborating with the boards. Does that make sense?
Just gonna, I know I'm trying to chair too, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to find everything. So, so this is, I'm looking for your motions as my point, because these are
Oh,
writing,
right.
that would be helpful to see it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So collaborate.
And this is the one, sorry, so this was emailed, this is in the packet, and this goal was, I struck through my original, and I sent this particular part back this
Oh.
afternoon. That's why you cannot find it. So sorry. I just realized that that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So sorry.
I think it's really hard to do this, honestly, like orally, just to be frank, if it's when it's more than one word. So, I mean, could you read it again? What you're
Sure.
doing with it?
Sure. And again, I can also live with the amended, with the motion that was made earlier too, and
Okay.
leave it for simplicity's
Yeah.
sake. So why don't I withdraw that for simplicity's sake? Just keep things moving.
Okay, I mean, I don't want to discourage you. I mean, it's by being confused, sorry.
Nope, that's okay. That's okay because
Okay.
instead of updating the goal, I'll leave that alone. But I did add a new policy to EN 14, and I couldn't decide what number that would be. And again, don't look for it.
Okay.
Don't stop scrolling.
Yep.
It's not there.
Okay.
So the action item behind the goal is, and this is my new policy statement right here, is to control and reduce invasive species through an integrated vegetation management and ecological restoration plan that supports native biodiversity, forest health, and climate resilience.
Is there a second?
I think so. Can you read that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you bet. And I apologies. I slipped this in under the wire again. All right. control and reduce invasive species through an integrated vegetation management and ecological restoration plan that supports native biodiversity, forest health, and climate resilience.
I'll second.
Yeah. Discussion? Yes, Mayor?
Yeah, it would help if, when you start, tell us what page the thing is on.
Well, no,
Yeah.
this is new.
But where, I'm trying to
For
find.
this,
I'm trying
so
to find-
this would be under, possibly just under goal EN 14.
On which page? Thank gosh, yeah.
Yeah, EN 11, page EN 11, start there. So this is a brand new policy section that I would like to insert.
Oh, new policy. Okay.
Is an action item?
Policy.
Okay.
I
thought
think
you
it would
said
be new policy EN 14.4.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I think oh, sorry, Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, I'm just, so I'm hearing the word plan in there, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to understand what that would look like. Is there a template for that? And do you have any sort of sense of how much staff time that would sort of take to create?
Oh, so, okay, so okay, here we go. So control and reduce invasive species through integrated vegetation management and ecological restoration and an ecological restoration plan. In this instance, I think this is something that supports work that's already happening through the various agencies, including the Kitsap Public Health District and the various weed management and noxious boards. So I think part of this work is already being done. I do not have any answers for you as far as what kind of staff time or budget would be required for it, but I will fall back on the aspirational notes of it.
Councilmember Nelson?
I mean, apologies. I guess I didn't quite realize that goal EN 14 already had plan in there. So I'll be supportive of it.
So I'm probably gonna vote for it just because I feel strongly about the issue. I think what struck me is it sounds like a term of art or something. It sounds like a type of plan. And I think that might be what Councilmember Nelson was talking about. If it's a bunch of descriptors of a plan, which could be called anything, that's okay. So I guess my question was just going to be, are you aware of any, that's not a plan name that you've pulled from somewhere that exists also that we already have or part of? If these are descriptors of the plan,
Correct.
lowercase letters.
Case.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Conversation?
Yeah.
Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to comment with observation with Councilmember Nelson. I don't know where you're doing your Zoom from, but you're having a much deeper lens and magnifying glass than the rest of us. So however you're doing it, thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries unanimously. And Councilmember Matthew.
Hey,
did you
this
have-
is my last one.
Okay.
And again, I really apologize for not getting, I always get these out in advance. It was just, couldn't happen this week. So this is going to go in, I would say page EN 14, as a last policy under consider establishing a city advisory group on agriculture comprised of citizens. And I believe we're doing that. So we are considering that. This, I'll just give a tiny bit of table setting, is that we have many equestrian farms here on our island who have been here forever. It is such part of a fabric of our community. In Kitsap County last year, there were some proposed regulations that would have essentially made, and many farms have to close, including some of our own here who would have had to cease operating. So this is, my motion is pretty straightforward. It is just to affirm Bainbridge Island's, I move to affirm Bainbridge Island's compliance with Washington's The Right to Farm Act, RCW 748305, protecting established agricultural activities, including boarding, grazing, and training horses from being declared a public or private nuisance. This law requires non-agricultural neighbors who move into rural areas to accept the typical odors, noises, and operational hours associated with existing, that's the key word, equine facilities.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion?
I'm
Yeah.
going to support it. Oh,
Mayor? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's really specific to an RCW, and this is a policy vision. And you might consider, I mean, there are people who have a lot of chicken coops too, which they don't fall under agriculture as well. So I mean, maybe I'm the vegetarian. You guys got better answers than me. But there's other people have. Some people, I'm actually got some people concerned about some goats I'm gonna go check out. So there are other mammals other than just horses that are being used and especially in the birds, the chickens. So it doesn't cover that either. So there's got to be a broader way to say it, I think.
We could just say affirm Bainbridge Island's compliance with Washington's Right to Farm Act.
Yeah.
Pretty simply.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I think my caution is sort of restating in here that we're going to comply with laws because we're going to do that anyway. And I think that the danger is that, this document might exist like this for the next 10 years. And what if the law has changed? Then all of a sudden what's in there is no longer correct. And so I'm kind of, and I mean, in agencies of the government of Washington state government, deal with this, where do you really want to just restate the RCWs and your regulations because when they're changed, then all of a sudden it's out of date. So while I agree with the concept, I think I'm not going to support it just because I don't want it to automatically end up out of date if the laws ever changed.
I could friendly amendment this a little bit. So I move to protect established agricultural activities, including boarding, grazing, and training horses as a goal.
I second that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody else?
Yeah, I want to,
Okay, Councilmember Fenton? Yeah.
I don't know that there's anywhere else that it mentions protecting horses. And I think that's what I'm looking at is how can we find a way to make sure we are including that, because that is, it's along with the farms, it is a part of Bainbridge. So I would support it.
And breaking that down, it was a reference to agriculture and then clarified that included horses. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, did you want to go ahead?
Just so because you're focusing on one mammal, I just asked, chickens are considered livestock, and so would goats. So maybe just throw that in there, just amend it, because you didn't.
I'm thinking about the riding horses.
It's different.
I know.
So it's I move to protect established agricultural activities, including boarding, grazing, and training horses. So established, chickens could be in there.
Well, I'm just, all right,
Yeah.
So are we in agreement that livestock is classified under agriculture?
Yep.
Of course.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't think that horses that are ridden are that are maintained for riding. And in fact, that's one question is, you're sure they're included in the right to farm?
Yes.
That's great. I think it's an important clarification because I think from a planning perspective, I would think like making the distinction potentially, like you could have zoned differently for, equestrian versus, cattle or something. So I think it's an important distinction and it's helpful. And it's good to know that it falls under agriculture, but it's not livestock. I don't think horses for riding are livestock. Yeah. Are we good?
I wasn't assuming anybody was eating horse meat. I think a lot of people don't view chickens or those kind of things as agriculture. On our island, when we use the word agriculture, it's usually planted plants and things like that. So that's why if you're going to that route that Councilmember Matthews is suggesting, then let's just kind of make it clearer that there's protections for those who have their multicolored eggs that they give to me as gifts and stuff like that.
Let's hear from our planning manager. Oh, actually, are you acting
Interim director.
interim director?
I just wanted to add, we do have a definition of livestock and it does include horses in it. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, carries unanimously. All right, Councilmember Lant, I think you had one or two more or more.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to run over to policy EN 11.2. EN 11.2 currently says EN-10. And this is really just an addition of one word to this existing policy. Currently says promote actions such as equipment modifications and operational requirements that reduce noise from transportation modes, construction sites, industrial uses, and commercial business establishments. I would just like to insert the word residential in there as well. So that would be my motion. So right after industrial, also add residential uses and commercial business establishments.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? Councilmember Schneider?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I had noted that as one word. Why? What are you thinking about in terms of adding residential?
Gas-powered blowers, for
So-
example.
Yeah, so I don't know where I land on all this, but I'm just thinking that we are dealing with things like gas-powered mowers. We are dealing with it and it's complicated and we'll probably get there, but we're kind of taking this incremental approach. So I don't know.
I have something to add. I didn't even think about that. My immediate thought was some of the issues we've had with people who are running weddings out of their properties and so forth. We've had, other things like that. I mean, I've had concerns for a while about, and this doesn't tell us what we're gonna do, but it's prioritizing it as something we think about, that we actually care about, that we may have land use regulations that say you can't have, a wedding here, or you can't have them, 5 times a month or whatever. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And, so let's go back to policy EN 11.2. It's promoting actions. I'm not saying you're going to do this. And operational requirements could be time limits. It could be, that's an operational requirement for doing this thing or using your blower or whatever. So this is promote. Again, this is the comprehensive plan that is giving us ideas and inspiration for things we might be able to do. And I think just a simple word of residential just covers our island.
It could also be a home-based business that's making a lot of noise. There's a lot of reasons. It's protecting sound.
It was just kind of odd to me that it was the only location or the zone that wasn't included. Yeah.
Do we need any further discussion? Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay? Okay, so Councilmember Fantroy Johnson and Councilmember Nelson voting nay. Passes 5-2. Okay. Councilmember Lant?
All right, and this kind of follows up to the last policy. So this is policy EN 11.4. This is a brand new policy. It's not in the existing goals. This motion would follow up with and more of here's the motion. Support targeted community outreach, multilingual communication and education, and transition support to individuals affected by the island's clean air, noise, or greenhouse regulations.
Is there a second?
And I'll read that one more time if
Yeah.
you'd like that, just for one moment there, sir. Support targeted community outreach, multilingual communication and education, and transition support to individuals affected by the island's clean air, noise, or greenhouse regulations.
Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I mean, it's a wonderful sentiment, but the title is promoting the reduction of invasive noise impacts. This informs people, but it doesn't really, how does that reduce noise impacts?
Is this, are we thinking of here? Oh, sorry, I know, I was like, sorry, Deputy Mayor. Is this in anticipation of, for instance, leaf blowers or something?
Yeah,
Okay,
or any other thing that we are asking the community, for example, waste products for food types of things, that we support transitions to cleaner, better, different technology, basically.
We don't have a second so far, I don't believe.
I kind of agree it's in the wrong section.
Yeah,
I
I was just thinking, I was
sure.
going to, yeah.
Wait,
And I don't know.
point of order. We're discussing a motion that still doesn't have a second. I think the motion fails because it didn't have a second.
Yeah, and it is a study session.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with Councilmember. Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of agree with the sentiment, but I think that we probably need more than to put it in into an element. You know what I mean? I think that's something that the council may want to take some action on, and not just have it in here as inspirational or aspirational.
It might belong, I don't know what element it would belong in, but something that would encompass what are our policies with regards to any new regulations that we think would merit that outreach, because they could relate to other things that we regulate or offer or require. So maybe we could ask for some feedback from staff on that. Councilmember Schneider.
So I flagged this one as just being a little too vague. And so my notes are like, what does this look like? And, how might we measure success? And I know that, not all of these pass that test. But it just feels vague to me. So yeah, at this point, I think I'm not supporting
Yeah,
it.
point of order. I'm going to point of order, Councilmember Nelson's point of order. There was not a second, and so there's no item to discuss, and we're continuing discussion of something that's not on the floor before us.
okay.
So we should move on.
Question then, so this, and I'm totally in support of that. This is something though that we can direct. So yes, perfect. Thank you.
I'll certainly take this note, but I will notice that, or I'll observe that this is close to what the equity lens is supposed to do. This is encouraging the city to take into account the impact of changes that are made and to ask questions about how that should be communicated and who should be considered when we're making changes to our policies. So I think it fits well with what's on the wall.
That's a good point. And I was just about to second it to keep it alive, but I don't think that that people want that right now. But I think it's the intentions were very good. Councilmember Lant, I think you have a couple
Okay.
more.
All right, policy EN 12.5. And that is page EN 11. This is another simple change, I think, EN 12.5. I think I just changed the words citizens to individuals.
Any discussion? My only reaction to that was I'd made a note, the community, because it's not just individuals, it's individuals and businesses and, whoever, it's city employees, it's whatever. I kind of prefer that broader. Would that work?
Let's make that a friendly amendment right there. So instead of the word individuals, use the word community. So the motion is support the development of a public education program which informs the community of the methods and progress for meeting the island's greenhouse gas emission goals and ways individuals can assist in reaching the reduction goals.
Second.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Lant.
Thank you. Okay, we're almost done with me, I promise you. Okay, policy EN 15.6. And I'll tell you the page number in just one moment. Is it 12? 15 point, yeah, EN 12. So policy EN 15.6, this is a one-word insertion.
I'm sorry,
Um,
I missed a page. Sorry.
EN 12.
Thank you.
So what's written is prioritize food production on public farmland to address long-term food security for island residents. I would like to also insert the word private farmland as well. So the motion would be prioritize food production on public and private farmland to address long-term food security for island residents.
Second.
Discussion?
Just- If not most, a large percentage are private farms, so that makes total sense.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. And I think you have one more.
All right, last one. Here we go. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Okay, this is policy. This is new policy I've created, so it's not online. So this is what I'm self-titling policy EN 17.9. This is the motion is exempt sign code requirements and fees for agricultural uses due to the seasonal nature of farms. And back to setting the table a bit, right now, if you want 3 sandwich boards, it's going to cost you over $750 if you're a farmer. And I do believe that some of the sign code requirements are a result of a lot of signage appearing in the denser areas of our community, the Winslow sub area, for example. And so areas, for example, on the north end and the south end, farms typically that have span acres and acres and maybe on multiple corners and multiple streets. $750 worth of signage every year is a lot of dahlias and pumpkins. And it's also really limiting to the visual sales of their seasonal sales. And so I would like to exempt them from some of these sign code requirements.
Is there a second? I don't see a second. Yeah. Councilmember,
I'll second it.
okay,
Yeah, sorry.
because I'm gonna want to hear from the city attorney on classifying them as a separate,
Yeah.
class. And then there's a lot of policy stuff behind that too, but.
Can I speak to it for a second after seconding it? Or go ahead, Mayor, go for it
Yeah,
first.
thank you. This sounds more like an amendment to the sign code. I mean, this is a very specific thing. It's not a comp plan thing. I mean, I understand your sentiment. I'm pretty supportive of it actually, but it really should be in the code and the ordinance. It shouldn't be on the comprehensive plan, which is a broader vision document, in my opinion.
Can I speak to that for just a moment? There's also in this existing document, and I could pull it up. I don't have it at my fingertips. There's already a nod to exempting certain parking requirements for farmers, for farmlands. So it's already in existence, and this just follows that, precedent.
The thing is that the First Amendment's involved in the sign code, so that's different than convenience issues like parking. Oh, am I not in the thing? Yeah, First Amendment, I'm saying there's First Amendment issues about the sign code, so let's check with the attorney. And we also have a long history, as you know, of the conversation.
I'm sorry, I struggle with your microphone. I apologize. Is the concern, so there was a case a few years ago regarding sign codes, and the basic rule of it is, at least for political signs, and political is defined very broadly, if you have to read the sign to understand the regulations that apply to it, then that is a violation of the First Amendment. Excuse me. Commercial signs don't generally have as much protection as political signs. However,
you can be a little bit more specific with them. My concern with exempting signs based on who is providing the sign is we might get close to that provision. That would be something I would need to do some research on. Just off the top of my head, I'm not sure I could specifically answer that at this moment. But just thinking through, if it's based on who is providing the sign, then you're going to probably have to read it in order to know the regulations. So, if a car dealer is putting a sign out, rather than a farmer, you'd have to read the sign to know that. You could potentially change that to different rules for different zones in the city rather than different rules for different owners of the sign.
Okay, and then, okay, I think Councilmember Matthews was
Yep.
next, and then Councilmember Nelson.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And thank you for bringing this forward, Councilmember Lant. So when this sign ordinance was first brought to council, I believe I was the only nay vote on this. And it was because of unintended consequences such as this. At the time, there was a sign issue in the Winslow core that I felt could have been addressed without going into the conservation district and impacting farms or 11 Winery, or, who wants to put a sign about a band so folks can see. I think I would support it, but I don't know if there's support. But what I would support is this being something that our agricultural committee can take up and work to see what they can do. I don't know legally if we can say farmer signs have to be allowed, but what we could say was in the outside of the core to allow sandwich board signs. But thank you for bringing it forward.
Okay, Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, I like the sentiment, and obviously I thank you to the city attorney for and the deputy mayor for raising some of those concerns. I think I would support it if it said consider exempting sign code requirements, et cetera, because then it could be something that we potentially study or potentially have the agricultural advisory committee, if we end up establishing that, look at it. Because I like the sentiment, but I think it's something that I would have to think about more, and it seems like everyone would have to kind of think about more and then check the kind of legal issues related to it. So that's kind of where I fall on it. If you made an amended motion that said consider, I would support it.
Then let me amend my motion and see if it gets me a little bit closer. Consider exempting sign code requirements and fees for agricultural uses due to the seasonal nature of the work.
Second.
So my only comment of that was why I will vote no is having been through this conversation. And I mean, sure, in a perfect world, we would choose which signs, hey, that's bucolic, that's only sometimes, and that sort of thing. My recollection is we were pretty soundly advised enough on this to know that if we go that way, then we're going to have to allow things that we wouldn't want. I think we tried to walk that line pretty carefully. I don't think that the rural area of the island is inconsequential for signs. There's a different sign problem out there. I don't think anybody hopefully has a concern with the farm signs, but there are concerns. Well, I think I'm not alone in being concerned about having to see we're going to buy your house, or quite frankly, leaving up like Little League for like 6 weeks and 50 coroplast signs in 1 mile. I mean, it's all those coroplast signs out in the rural area, which I think is our version out there of the sandwich boards here. So, and then the last thing I would say is that because there was very sincere and important and real concern about from the realtor community, et cetera, and all of this, I don't want to reopen it with preferential, even voting, indicating a preference, because there's so many people who would also say, my small business really, these are different policy perspectives, right? Is that my small business really needs that sign somewhere where I'm no longer able to do it, to draw customers coming up, in conflict with other policy concerns. So I can't vote for it because I feel like it's just not the context where I want to reopen this as a legal issue or a community issue.
And I'll just emphasize again, this is seasonal work, not small businesses that are in 365 a year, seasonal work only.
Okay, Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There is, oh God, it's been so long we did this, but there are things in the code that say they can be up for temporary reasons for, let's say, the Rotary auction, but it has to be gone by the time the event is over. Political signs are allowed, but only during the campaign and or the candidacy of that campaign. So there are some exceptions that can do that, but to put it in the comp plan, I just think is the improper place. I agree with the deputy mayor. It was really a lot of work put into that. And I would suggest to the council member, if that's something that is a concern, we can always move it to a regular study session business and make it a topic of discussion there. But it just doesn't really work for me putting this specific group in the comp plan. That's the disturbing part, because it sounds preferential, or why, and the comp plan is supposed to be broad for the whole community. So that's why being so specific on that, it really is, to me, trying to amend the sign code and not trying to, you're pre-amending the ordinance by putting it in the comp plan as a goal. So I don't think that's the proper route, and I'd oppose it because of those reasons.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Please indicate aye.
Aye.
3, and opposed? 4, so it fails with the nay coming, do you want the nay or the? Schneider, Fantroy Johnson, Hytopoulos, and Morawaki with nay. Okay. All right, so we're moving on to, I think, am I right? We're moving on to another element. We're gonna move on to 3.
Point of order.
Uh-huh.
Don't we want to make the motion to move forward this element to a future business meeting?
Thank you.
And if I can find it, I'll make the motion. Okay. I move to forward the environmental element of the comprehensive plan to a future council business meeting for further discussion and consideration of approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Right. Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. Item 3C, consider environmental, item 3D, consider economic element of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next is the economic element of the comprehensive plan. This element is intended to represent the community's approach to attracting and retaining business, providing public facilities, and all while preserving its natural features. New proposed language is shown as underlined text in the packet. We had one suggested motion from Councilmember Nelson, which is shown on page 91. And I'll introduce our interim planning director, Darren Buchanan. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Interim City Manager, Interim Planning Director Darren Buchanan. The economic element is required by the Growth Management Act. The Planning Commission considered the element. Pardon me. The Planning Commission considered the economic element and approved it as presented on March 18th, 2026. The economic element is intended to guide the enterprise and commercial exchange on Bainbridge Island to help reinforce the overall strategy, values, and vision of the comprehensive plan to deal with our future needs. A healthy, resilient economy helps accomplish larger community goals and create a more robust future. A community that creates for itself an environment that attracts new businesses while nurturing the existing ones, that maintains an adequate public facilities and preserves its natural resources, will have an edge when it comes to improving its economy. The proposed updates are once again to reflect the updated planning period and acknowledge any changing conditions in 2017. There are a few changes of note. Some of them are to foster a positive business climate that provides living wages. Businesses that are locally owned or are women or minority-owned small businesses, to encourage diverse local employment opportunities, including home-based and remote employment, noting that since 2020, we've seen a notable increase in home-based businesses and remote workers, which has helped further diversify the local workforce. There is a motion before you today to move the economics element to a future meeting for future discussion and consideration of approval.
Deputy Mayor, may I also I'm sorry, I overlooked Councilmember Lance motions, which are on page 90. So excuse me for that. Page is 90 and 91 in the packet.
And we'll follow the same approach, and maybe we'll start with Councilmember Nelson.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So go to page EC-8, I move to strike policy EC-8.2 in its entirety, and I will speak to it briefly. This one says develop neighborhood centers at higher residential densities as recommended in the land use element in order to attract a variety of small-scale retail and service providers. I'm moving to strike this because I think the consensus has really been that we didn't want to increase residential density outside of Winslow. And you see that in the current, the Linwood sub-area plan and the rest of the comp plan. And so I don't think that this policy is consistent with the direction we're going in. And so I will leave it at that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Councilmember Matthews?
Yeah, I'll just, so I get where Councilmember Nelson is coming from, but my take is that there are other neighborhood centers that are not Linwood Center, where we have been talking about at some point increasing density. As far as Linwood Center, it is a goal to attract a variety of small scale retail and service providers, and there's several live work type things. So this one, I don't support striking that.
Councilmember Schneider?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I get it that this time around, we're sort of choosing not to go there in terms of increasing density, but I don't know that we're changing the overall long-term goals of the comp plan. That I think we still have neighborhood centers. We still are prioritizing them in a way that is different from the rest of the island. So I think our choice right now is not indicative of maybe our choice next time. Thank you.
Councilmember Andrew Johnson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we haven't done those plans yet for those areas. So I'm not going to support this.
And a little history, in order to get out of years ago, I mean, this is the way I've always understood the lore, is to not be, when we incorporated the island and became a huge UGA, in order to avoid the immediate 6 units per acre or whatever urban zoning was at that time, we constructed this plan. Our plans have been around this idea of centers focusing on the neighborhood service centers in Winslow, with the justification of putting the density where the services are, et cetera. So that scheme is really important to our positioning, I think, in the GMA. And I agree with what's been said. We're not doing it this round. I have strong feelings about what the purpose really, I think, originally was for the neighborhood service centers versus what they are now, which may be sort of consistent with some of what Councilmember Nelson might be thinking too. I don't believe they should be beacons to attract people from all over the island or people off island. The idea, and I think we see it in this language, is you'd have services available there to serve those residents and nearby residents. So you'd actually reduce travel across the island. You'd be compliant with the GMA, where you're trying to put the growth near the services, not have people driving all over the place. So I think this actually stays consistent with that, because in order to have those services in those locations, we need to have the density, and we need the density to comply with the GMA as we haven't. That's my input. Councilmember Nelson.
Is it consistent with your input, Councilmember? Oh, I shouldn't crosstalk. Apologies. But I will note that it says higher residential densities. It doesn't just say densities. And I think that's what's sort of throwing me off here, is it says develop them at higher residential densities in order to attract a variety of small scale retail and service providers. Those don't seem connected to me in my mind, but I could be mistaken.
Well, I think the population growth that's what I was referencing in the first part of my comments. It's the population allocation being put into those centers as opposed to distributed across the rural areas. So it is that. It's a secondary issue that then let's have services there so that we can try to keep people in smaller areas of the island. So it's both to allocate population where we want it, and then also to have services to provide services in different areas of the island that support that population. That's my understanding of it. I certainly appreciate concerns about if we were saying, and I think for the community's sake, to say, I will say that as I vote to not remove this, I am in no way indicating that we should reverse the position that we've been taking so far, which is to add additional density in the neighborhood service centers at this time. So, Councilmember Lant?
And I also see the point behind this request for omission. I wish there was some language in here that said something to the effect of, as infrastructure becomes available, putting the cart, you know, behind the horse for a change would be nice. And to see something like that, that would make sense to actually want to develop the neighborhood center, because now there's infrastructure that would support the neighborhood center. Because I too, you know, we really do want to concentrate growth in certain areas, but certain areas where there is infrastructure to support it. So that's it.
Who's next? Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And you said virtually everything I wanted to say, so I want to amplify that and to continue that point. Linwood Center's kind of coming that. And what Waltz is doing, I'm not trying to pick out certain service or company, but they are intercepting people from the south end, not having to drive all the way to TNC or Safeway to get that gallon of milk or that bottle of wine or whatever, because why should I do that? And so that's the idea of having it. And to your point exactly, we don't want sprawl, and we want to put it where the people are. And so this policy simply says, this is where people need to go. Don't build mega mansions, come closer to neighborhood centers. I totally would like to keep this policy on the comp plan.
And Councilmember Matthews?
Not on this one. I had a next one.
Okay, great. And I think I just real quick to Councilmember Lance comments. Hopefully we still have in the comprehensive plan references to the requirement for center planning. I'm not sure. I don't know if we should still have that. And then I would hope that, I mean, the reality is you can't add density if you don't have sewer. And so that at least that utility will hold us back from developing the other neighborhood service centers or further developing Linwood until we have those services. So I think that that's kind of just in and of itself will take care of itself. Any more discussion? Another comment, Councilmember Nelson?
Yeah, I just think that it's a good point about the sewer and infrastructure. And given that that's not there, I think this policy should be removed, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Okay, and opposed, nay. Okay, so it fails 4-2, and I'm really not sure whether, I guess we could call it the two. The two ayes were Councilmember Lant and Councilmember Nelson for the clerk. Thank you.
That'd be fine.
Sorry, 5,
Yeah.
2-5, failed 5-2. I'm not sure. Okay. Councilmember Lant, oh, yeah, and how about, or you want to go backwards?
Sure, why not?
Let's do Councilmember Matthews. Does
Okay.
anybody else have any motions? No, okay.
Okay, so this is EC2 Economic Vision right in the header, and I could be piddling here. Page EC2 under Economic Vision 2044. And the sentence says, the economy of Bainbridge Island reaps advantages from proximity to the Seattle area and the Kitsap Peninsula. Oh, sorry.
I don't know where this is.
It's on EC2 page. It's right under the
Yeah.
table of contents and economic development. It's like the
Okay.
second.
Mhm.
So it's just a piddling thing, but the economy of Bainbridge Island reaps advantages from proximity to the Seattle area and the Kitsap Peninsula, period. The one sentence I wanted, the island is a destination for visitors interested in learning about sustainability and resilient community development. Is it? So
has been.
it has been. So I wanted to add something to that if possible. So the only change would be the island is a destination for visitors interested in learning about its rich cultural history and legacy of sustainability and resilience.
Okay, I have something to add. I mean, historically, I don't, oh gosh.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I moved to change the language of that sentence just to include rich cultural history. Yeah, that was the only rich, hold on, let me go back to my page. Learning about its rich cultural history is the only add there. The island is a destination for visitors interested in learning about its rich cultural history, sustainability, and resilient community development.
Second.
Oh. Okay, could I ask a clarifying question? It sounds like when you said it the second time, it wasn't just that it had a history of it, it also, it's current. It's
Yeah.
current, okay. That would just change it for me. Okay.
The only thing was just to add something a little more about, we have so much cultural history here. And so to add, I'm sure a lot of visitors come for that too, that's all.
Sure. Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And let's remember what this is. Look at the header. It's Economic Vision 2044. We're making this visionary time travel statement that we have become this island of sustainability and resilient community development. That's something worth working toward and being there in 2024. And so this is just one of these. This is a mission statement, if you will, for our community. And so you shouldn't get too much into, because we're not there yet, obviously. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councilmember Nelson?
Yeah, I would briefly echo the mayor's sentiment on this one, which is that this is, even though it's in present tense, this is an aspirational statement. So it's not meant to be a true statement today. So
I will add before we vote that we really have had people come here too. We used to have Bainbridge Graduate Institute. Wasn't that a focus on that? And we've got Islandwood, and we've had, we just kind of been a place that attracts actual teaching on sustainability and so forth. So anyway, okay.
I think at one point we used to even offer a degree, didn't we, for sustainability? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I thought about doing
Yeah.
that.
Well, there you go. BGI.
Bainbridge graduate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
I,
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. I'm losing my voice. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Now, Councilmember Lint.
Thank you. All right, policy EC 1.11. And that is page EC 4. All right, so this is a new addition to, it's existing, but it was put in as an addition this year. And I like everything about it except for the last 3 sentences, or the last 3 words, sorry.
Okay.
Not the whole thing, just the last 3 words. So my motion is to just strike address past inequities from this statement. So it would read, prioritize services and access to opportunity for people of color, people with low incomes, and historically underserved communities to ensure all people can attain the resources and opportunities to improve quality of life, period.
I'm going to second for purpose of discussion.
Okay. Discussion?
So why are we removing it?
To me, it kind of has a virtue signaling feel to it. And it doesn't seem to me to, I don't know that we can, really address past inequities. It feels really good to say it, but I don't know that this policy statement is going to address past inequities to the degree that we would like it to, we wish it would be. I think it's just more powerful to leave it stopping at quality of life, because that's policy, and it supports diversified economy, I think, pretty fully throughout the statement.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. So I'm going to disagree with this one. I think we should leave it as is, especially considering some of the work that the Housing Accountability Act asked us to complete in our comprehensive plan. They specifically call out listing those inequities, the past inequities. So I do see some teeth there. And again, this is it's aspirational. So yeah, I would not support taking out what I think is the real meat of the sentence.
Councilmember Nelson? Councilmember Nelson?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the policy as written. I think I would just, it's sort of a question for the city attorney as to whether the city attorney sees any issues with it as written. Because if the city attorney is fine with it, I'll, be fine leaving it as is.
Turn the microphone on.
I always struggle with your microphone. Forever to get it turned on and then forever to get turned off. It doesn't like me. I apologize. I really can't opine on that from a legal point of view. I don't particularly knowing that this is the comprehensive plan rather than the enacting regulations coming out of the comprehensive plan. I do not have any legal reason to prefer one over the other.
And I would say one of the reasons that wouldn't worry me legally would be because what I was going to say in response to whether or not, I don't really know that we really can address past inequities, is there's a difference between, to me, taking an action to address past inequities that could get us into some legal trouble. I don't know, where you're actually giving someone a preferential treatment or something, as opposed to that the idea would be that in the context of past inequities, that the treatment we're asking for of people, this, is in itself is a salve to that, or it is a basis for that, as if there needs to be a basis, but it doesn't mean it's like a transactional thing or something. It's more of a, right? It's something more cultural, human, emotional than literally transactional. So it won't change what happened, but the context is helpful.
So questioning to that real quick. Yes, Mayor, go ahead.
I've been waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think I talked to them.
Thank you,
Mayor?
Deputy Mayor. I think it's more than fine as it is. And addressing past inequities is pretty broad. We're doing that right this month on the Asian Arts and Heritage Festival and talking a lot about the past and the racism. It's addressing the issue. And addressing past inequity could be simply that, just so you're aware that these things happen in our community. So I think it's a well-written statement, and I think it makes total sense to keep it in.
Okay, Councilmember Land.
So I was only going to question, or not question, but so if one is looking at this policy as if I was in this category, any of these categories, that this really speaks to me that the reason this is happening is because of past inequities. Is that correct? Am I simplifying this too much?
I can't speak as somebody who would be in one of the groups referenced, but I think something that the mayor just said made me feel that what we're talking about, it's being seen. It's about, by putting it in there and recognizing it, it almost is in it, that in itself is that is seen and that is recognized. And I don't see it as necessarily connected to the action itself. It's just, it's important just to state it. I see that as value, right? So you can say it's in there because it is a basis for the action at the beginning of the sentence. And it's also just having it there is seeing that and recognizing it. It's not my bailiwick to speak to these things, but that's how I see it.
Well, I guess especially if it's something that goes for a commerce requirement to add, then I'm fine with that.
Okay. Well, did you want to withdraw the motion?
Withdraw the motion.
Okay. Does Councilmember Nelson have, no, you had the one. Councilmember Mathis, did you have more?
I just had one. I had one more, and it is on page EC4, and it was policy EC 1.8, the 6 is dashed out. And it says coordinate with the business community and others to monitor the island's business climate and make appropriate adjustments. And then it was added to diversify and make more resilient the economic health of the island. It just read why, oh, sorry, it's on,
What page?
sorry about that. It's on page EC4 under above infrastructure. And it's policy EC 1.86. Just the language was off to me. So coordinate with the business community and others to monitor the island's business climate and make appropriate adjustments to diversify and make more resilient the economic health of the island. So I move to, at first it just said strike that, just and make appropriate adjustments. But if that's important to folks, I move to say coordinate the business with the business community and others to monitor the island's business climate and make appropriate adjustments to improve the resiliency and economic health of the island.
I'll second.
So this raises a question for me of the origin of this. And I don't know if we know about that. So for example, if this was informed by the Chamber of Commerce or somebody, I don't know, and they thought that was good, because I mean, there's something to be said about diversifying now. I mean, for us to be up here getting into it, I wouldn't have originated it, but I don't know, do we want to mess with it? Why do we remove diversify?
We can leave it alone. It just, the language seemed, it read strange to me.
Yeah.
I
Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I remember having discussions with the business community, and they say we don't want to be a tourist development, chitty things with nice little places of soap and things like that that aren't necessarily good for our economy. You've heard me say over and over, the health of an economy is how many times a dollar bill gets touched. When I first moved here, I could go right into Winslow and go to a hardware store, and I could walk over and to get one of the things that shows a vibrant community is if you can buy underwear somewhere, you could do that here in Winslow. But that has changed. It's gone from diversity to kind of homogeneous. We're going to cater to tourists often is what seems to be the deal. And so I think diversity is huge for our economic future, to have more things that can sustain us and not during the peak tourist seasons.
Okay. I can withdraw my motion then. If that's, yeah.
Could, Councilmember Lamb,
Yeah, but
would you mind if I actually potentially make a motion here? I realized there was one thing that I had made a note of, and I'm not going to drop it. So I'd like to ask the council a question first to see if it's worth it. It's EC3, page EC3. It's policy EC 13. And my question is going to be, isn't this deleted language what the council just voted for in the last budget? And if we agree, then I think I should make a motion. So the motion would be to not delete, create an economic development strategy to identify creative and appropriate ways for the city to encourage and stimulate business activity. It sounds a lot of, I should wait to see if anyone wants to second it.
Second.
Yeah, we said in the last budget cycle, we wanted to have an economic, basically strategic plan. We wanted to finally start doing economic planning. And this sounds like broad strategic economic planning to me. So does anyone know, I don't know if our interim planning director knows at all, would have any idea why it got struck. I mean, that's kind of small.
I do not currently. I was trying to find the motions that
Yeah.
Planning Commission has made to see if I could reference what the motion was related to. But at this time, I do not. I can find that information for you, though.
And I will say, as someone who, I mean, that was new for me at the budget to say, yeah, let's do this finally. After being on council for many years and feeling like business and economic stimulation was anti-environment and anti-quality of life, honestly. I mean, okay, a little positional, I guess. But realizing, actually it doesn't preclude any particular type of business, and it can be focused on things like making sure that we have access to the goods that we need, et cetera. So I remain strongly in favor of us doing more work of this, and I think this is undoing what we voted for. Okay, any more discussion needed? Mayor?
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Again, you pretty much stated what I want to say, and I think we gave, I think, $70,000 to the Chamber of Commerce to start on this exact idea. So we're on the way to creating it. So it's a good catch.
Okay, good. All right, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Land. Oh,
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
we're not there yet. Sorry.
Okay, let's see, policy EC 1.4. That is on page EC 3. All I'm doing with this motion is adding one word, or rather two words, to this. So it currently is support existing partnerships of business leaders and community members that work together to enhance the economic vitality of Bainbridge Island. I would like to add the word support existing and future partnerships. So and future to this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion needed? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Councilmember Land.
One more.
All right, thank you. Oh, do you have one
Oh,
more?
you have
I have one more.
Sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
so
I don't know where it can live. But it was, so I was directing, this could be an after comp plan thing. Directing staff to evaluate the BI service, BI constrained framework, and incorporate that with objectives and performance-based eligibility and clear operating standards. Where that's coming from is small batch businesses like what I do. I hand dye yarn. And so we don't use a lot of it's not large scale factory. In the Day Road facility, all those are on septic. Whereas in Copper Top, where they could do those small scale type things, they are not able to. So at some point, just asking the city to look at that. This came from a citizen, Mr. Nelson. So I don't know where it would live, but I just want it to be on our radar for discussion.
This is the time to do that. I mean, ideally, we do it, not this 11th hour,
Yeah.
since it feels a little like, we need to be talking about the pros and cons, but is there a way to say that broadly
To
enough?
explore, what is a word? To explore, yeah. So I move to direct staff to explore the BI service to BI constrained framework. As presented.
Is there a second?
Just question. I mean, this sounds like it's a directive now. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't a policy. You're making a specific action and wanting a result and naming out certain
Is it a
policies. So I
committed
think,
use issue?
Yeah.
I think it could easily be something that you could bring for agenda item on the city
That's
council.
exactly.
Why,
Okay.
or I was just gonna say, could we ask for staff assistance in what wording you might be looking for when we look at permitted uses?
That would be great.
I think I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm struggling to follow along.
Yeah.
Could you repeat it again?
So I was asking staff to the word I used, explore a BI serviced, BI constrained framework and incorporate those in an objective performance-based eligibility with clear operating standards. So, or that would be like the use table for light industrial in Copper Top.
To expand what we currently have as
Yes.
business industrial.
Yep.
To almost make subsects of the business industrial.
Yeah, for light.
So basically to create a new use.
Yes.
That is a very light industrial that wouldn't be inappropriate for business industrial
Exactly.
or for specifically for copper.
Exactly.
Deputy Mayor, if you don't mind, I think this is something certainly that the interim planning director and I can discuss. It seems like it
Okay.
may be more appropriate for the land use element
yes.
as opposed to the economic element. So we can
Yeah.
certainly bring it back to you, but I,
Okay.
you provided
Sounds
us
good.
with a memo that we can review.
Okay, yeah, and I sent it to, yeah, so that's
Okay.
better.
Great.
Okay, so I will withdraw that and we will work that way.
Okay. Councilmember Lant?
Okay, policy EC 2.4. This is another simple change up. Currently, this policy states utilize
Page number?
EC4.
EC4.
Okay.
And this is policy EC 2.4. So it currently states utilize local improvement districts or tax increment financing to spur infrastructure development. And my motion simply replaces, I just add other financial tools in place of or tax increment financing to spur infrastructure. So my motion would say utilize local improvement districts and other financial tools to spur infrastructure development.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And that was it. That was an aye. Councilmember Nelson, correct? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Lant?
All right. Thank you. Okay, this is policy EC 3.4. And so let's see, currently it says encourage public sector solid waste reduction, reuse, and recycling. And I move to encourage public and private sector solid waste reduction, reuse, and recycling, and partner with nonprofit organizations and community-led initiatives that advance sustainability, resiliency, and resource sharing goals.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
This one was
Yeah.
just really, so
Yeah.
Jillian was, she came to one of Councilmember Nelson and my coffees and really laid this out. And it just seemed like such a really, really, really great initiative. The month of May is called Me Made May. And for us makers, it's really against fast fashion and really encouraging recycling, reuse, slow fashion. I made my shirt today. And things like that. And so I support this one.
Great. All right. Any further discussion needed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Councilmember Lant?
Okay, bringing us home. Okay, right. Yes, again, thank you. So this is policy EC 3.7. I created this one, so you won't find it. My motion is to support the development of community-based reuse, repair, and material recovery initiatives that reduce waste, extend product life cycles, and contribute to Bainbridge Island's climate resilience and sustainability goals.
Second.
Great. Sounds like we're not going to need any discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And do we have a motion?
I'm just dying to make this. motion.
Yeah.
I move to forward the economics element of the comprehensive plan to a future meeting for further discussion and consideration of approval.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Oh, sorry.
I noticed that Councilmember Lant had one more.
Oh.
You're not going to do that one? I'm sorry. Oh, it's coming up.
I think I'm done. I
Okay.
think I finished it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we are turning to 3E, consider capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan. Sorry, I'm not talking to the microphone.
All right. Good evening, Council. This is our last element for the day. The capital facilities element is the element of the comprehensive plan that describes public facilities and the city's 20-year approach to providing public infrastructure for our community, visitors, and businesses. The more detailed year-to-year approach to capital facility investment is shown in our capital improvement plan. That is a 6-year plan, which is adopted and updated every year as part of the budget process. It's incorporated by reference into this capital facilities element. So when you review the capital facilities element, you'll see that it's more general and contains inventories and other policy and goal statements. We did include background memos from our Public Works Department, which to provide additional context for city-owned water, sewer, and stormwater utilities. Our interim planning director, Darren Buchanan, is here to provide a few words of additional introduction.
Thank you, interim city manager, interim planning director, Darren Buchanan. The capital facilities element is required underneath the Growth Management Act. Planning Commission considered and approved as presented the capital facilities element on March 26, 2026. Capital facilities are the public facilities that we use on a daily basis. These are our streets, our sidewalks, our city parks. There are public buildings like City Hall and the Ted Spearman Justice Center. There are also public water and our sanitary sewer systems. As interim city manager mentioned, under the Growth Management Act, a capital facilities element is required to have a capital improvement plan. This is a 6-year financing plan that identifies types and locations of expanded and or new capital facilities, as well as sources of the funding for those. The capital improvement plan ensures that new information, grant making, and evolving priorities have a continual review. Again, the proposed updates are just to reflect updating planning period, as well as acknowledging the conditions or changes that have happened since 2017. There's really not a whole lot of changes of note. Mostly is to include that we ensure capital improvement projects are affordable and equitably accessible to all residents. As previously mentioned, there's a summary of the updates to the capital facilities element has been included as a memo from the former Public Works Director, Chris Risbicki. And there is a motion in front of you today to move the forward capital facilities element to a future meeting for discussion and consideration of adoption.
Thank you. Before we make any motions, I know I have some questions. Or anybody else have questions, or could I proceed? And this actually is for the interim planning director. Is it true that Commerce has actually made some indications that we are looking to be inadequate in our capital facilities portion with regards to the projected population? Is there anything, further work, or is there indication that further work is needed to be done?
Outside of the 12 comments that they've given us?
I thought it was included in their comments. There was some reference to there being insufficient plan for capital facilities to support the population projected.
I would have to re-look at that to give you a better answer.
Okay. And when I first saw what we were given as the element, and there were the 2 memos attached to it, I thought, what is this? Is this like placeholder language along those lines? So it sounds like that you're not, as far as you're concerned, no, that's not the case. That was just additional information. They're not placeholding.
I think the intention was to provide the same background as the Planning Commission received.
Okay.
So we just wanted you to have access to that information as you were reviewing the capital facilities element. We'll certainly look into that population question. That's not one that I had flagged when before, or I haven't been contacted with that from Commerce. Certainly happy to look into that.
Okay, yeah, and I thought it was in communication from Commerce, but okay, well, and I'm going to ask it. It's sort of an out of order question, but study session, so I think it's okay. Just as a bookmark, because I'd forgotten to on the last element. Just want to make sure that we've had legal analysis of whether or not the whole plan is in compliance with the sub-element requirements of the for climate change. Want to make sure we've had actual legal review of that. And if you're not aware of that, that's okay, but I'll make sure we check that.
So we know that the required update for the climate element doesn't need to be done for us until 2029, until the next update.
Okay.
So that is, we will be significantly reorganizing the comprehensive plan during the next update to comply with that. But at this time, we don't need to do that.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you for tolerating that little blip there. Motions? Councilor Matthews.
I think mine can just be a question. So it was on page CF9, which is the list of, you know what, sorry, scratch, CF8. And it's table CF1, city land and office facility inventory. And just for consistency, until it's, oh, is it 9? Yep. For consistency, we have in here Bainbridge Performing Arts land only, land leased to BPA for $1 a year through May 2081. And then below it, where we have 180 Olympic Drive, it says building rented to tenant. Is there a reason that we don't have the amount there for consistency, just for public knowledge? And then my second one is the next page, CF9, the same as at 625 Winslow Way East. Same for consistency. The other ones seem to have what they're proposed and this one just says vacant. So is there a reason that we don't have the same sort of naming convention for those two items? And that was it.
Were you directing that question at staff?
That was, yeah, sorry, that was a question and it could for staff, just out of curiosity, and then depending on the answer, I would make maybe a motion.
Unfortunately, I don't have that answer. I can, obviously, we'll get that to you. I believe the reason why it was listed as vacant is there's no proposed, outside the pre-app, there's no proposed use for it, but I can clarify that.
And then the other, just listing the, if it was possible to list the amount of the lease for consistency.
Yeah, we may not have known that information, but if we do, I can get that updated as well.
Okay, Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To Councilor Matthews, I believe 180 Olympic Drive was the Notch property. Is that right? I mean, I think it's a Notch property. And so therefore,
That's what you were.
the building's rented and, yeah, I don't know what the amount is, but I think that's what we're talking about, right? Okay.
And I actually have a question on the same lines too. I was wondering where the trailer park trailer fell into this list of any of the inventories here.
There are a couple of lines that appear to be missing on this table, so we'll go ahead and add those. The Islander Mobile Home Park is one. We also, I believe, on this same land facility inventory, need to list the Bainbridge Island Rowing Center, which we also own, and the Bainbridge Island History Museum. So we have a couple of items to list, to update in this table, but thanks for the reminder on that one.
Okay. I think that we're moving on to motions. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Nelson. Yes.
Oh, I was going to speak to motions, and I also wanted to point something out, but we're moving on. Anyway, to the question that was raised about commerce and the capital facilities element, I just point everyone to pages 13 and 14 of the letter from Commerce. Under internal consistency, under findings, it said, in the capital facilities element, the city did not provide a forecast of the future needs or capital facilities and the proposed locations and capacities of expanded or new capital facilities consistent with the housing element growth forecasts. And then changes needed, it says update the capital facilities element to include a forecast of future needs for capital facilities and proposed locations and capacities of expanded or new capital facilities consistent with the housing element growth forecast. So it was in there in the in Commerce's letter. So, okay. So I think I'm going to start with my larger questions before I go to my motions. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. I was actually hoping you could, can you forward that to us when you have a, when we're between things? I'd
Oh,
like
sure.
that was a lot to yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the Commerce letter, and I'll just.
I can find that. You're right, because I thought it was. Sorry for interrupting you. It just seems very pertinent.
Well, here, city council distribution. Hold on. Okay, so I just sent it to everyone, pages 13 and 14. Under number 5, it's internal consistency.
Thank you. Okay. And please feel free to move forward your motions if you want. I mean, if council wants to take a look at it, that's fine too, but.
Well, and I'll start with I'm going to start with my questions around the former Public Works Director's memo, because I just wanted to make sure I was clear on this. So, and so this is probably largely for the interim planning director, or not, sorry, interim planning director, it's getting late, interim Public Works Director. Under the water utility summary, it says that, okay, hold on. Okay, no, this one's right. This one says it's expected to be able to serve an increase in population of 6,600 people, which is double the projected population increase. Okay, so that makes sense. But on the sewer one, I think is what threw me off. Oh, no, sorry, I'm sorry. The sewer and the wastewater treatment. The sewer one says the resulting technical memo analyzed a maximum Winslow population of 6,397 by 2044, almost double the projected Winslow area population, and then it inserts the amount that's the increase. And so what's throwing me off here is I think that this is saying that the total amount of population that it could handle in Winslow is 6,397, but the number here is not the total Winslow population, it's just the increase. Is anyone following what I'm saying? It's on page 2 of the technical memo.
I think we have Peter Corellis here from staff to speak to the issue.
Yes, good evening, Council. Peter Corellis, Interim Public Works Director. Yeah, as to your question, the 6,397 people by 2044 is not the total population. It is the increase. It's the maximum increase over the base population. Which,
okay, so yeah, I guess it's poorly. I guess I wouldn't say poorly, but it's the language is a little confusing just because it says analyzed a maximum Winslow population. So that sounds like total population.
yeah, as indicated in the memo, the existing population, the baseline at the date of when it was written in 2023 was a little over 7,000. So the 6,397 would be on top of that.
Okay. And then the wastewater treatment plant one, look at the second and third sentence. It says, as identified in the memo, there are at least 2 capacity upgrade projects that could be implemented within the footprint of the existing plant, providing an ultimate capacity of 2110 ERUs, which translates to a conservative residential population of 5,064. Now that can't be increased, right? It says ultimate population. So is that the total amount of people that could be in Winslow, including the 2 upgrades?
Yeah, the ultimate build-out capacity of 2110 ERUs, that would be the ultimate build-out, and it would support that population of 5,064 in the sewer area.
Total. And that's not the increase, that's total, right? I just want to make sure I'm clear. Because then the next number in the next sentence says that's approximately 1.5 times the projected area population included in the expected recommendation. And the number here is 3,352 was the increase in population, not the total. And so I don't know what the current population in Winslow is. And so I just, for my sake, knowing that we're not going beyond the wastewater treatment plant's capacity, the sewer capacity, with what we're planning for, I'd just like to know what our current population is, and then that we're adding on the expected increase on top of that and making sure that still comes under the 5,064.
I understand what you're asking. If you refer to the memo written by Chris Wierzbicki on April 7th, 2023 to the city manager and council.
2023, let me look.
Showing the graphic, it shows the incremental increase in capacity up to the 2,100 ERUs. That is capacity in and above what we have currently. So the population in reference to the 2110 ERUs is in addition to the existing population.
An increase of approximately 2,700 people. What do we know what the, okay, I see. So you're looking at them. Okay, hold on. And that was what was in the DEIS, was an increase of 2,700. Okay.
Could I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Or, this is pretty hefty stuff, and personally, I think it's really critical stuff, and it should be very easy for anybody, excuse me, reading this to understand what you're talking about. I'm also seeing again the language in the commerce memo, and I'm sorry, I'm having a coughing fit, that unless I'm really missing something, there's some work that's going to have to be done on the capital facilities element. Does staff disagree? I mean, we're being told we need to demonstrate in the capital facilities element and in the utilities element some ability to accommodate the population that they're not seeing. And I don't believe these have been amended at all since that we received that. Would that be correct, Planning Director?
That is correct. To my knowledge, we have not made any adjustments to it.
So I'm wondering whether we should be putting this off as it is to another meeting for a substantive conversation once staff has had a chance to do what needs to be done to make a stab at meeting Congress's expectations. And frankly, I think it's going to provide necessarily the answers to these questions that I absolutely share. And so this might be a conversation. We might want to move this item. It's just a thought. And it's getting late. For the public's benefit, we were at a meeting for 2 hours before we came in here as well. Is that a possibility? I mean, we don't spending a bunch of time on this and then potentially having a significantly redrafted element doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We are certainly happy to defer this and take a look at some of the information and the questions that you have.
Well, and hopefully responding to comments.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to be reviewing what our response to Congress is.
Correct. We'll go ahead and take a look at these at this letter, and we'll develop a staff response, let you know what we're planning to share.
Okay. I don't know if you all had a chance to look at it because I wasn't able to follow it as quickly from what Mike had said, but I'd seen it before and it's pretty substantive. I don't think there's any question that you need to do these things and they haven't been done yet. That is not a criticism of staff. Everyone's overwhelmed and running short. So council would be in agreement. We'd like to bring back the capital facilities element in its amended form. Okay, thank you. And thank you, staff, and thank you for waiting so long to talk to you of something we're going to move. I believe that takes us to committee reports. Nope.
Really wonderful leaders. The opening and blessing of the Island North Kids have Jewish Center, and it's at the base of Hildebrand next to where it was for Saturday was the anniversary of Martin Williamson. It was on his original board after the first year, and come a long way. Which is this program go on to Seattle.
Just to say that I attended the Puget Sound Regional Council's Housing Committee Academy on Friday. It was very informative. And it's great to be making some relationships with some other communities. And for some reason, I keep sitting next to a council member from Mercer Island, and we keep giving each other nuts with how both cities are dealing with our commerce. So there's a lot of shared feelings in a room full of people who are trying to figure out how to accommodate all of the during this birthday. Very well attended. I was so proud of our community who really showed up and spoke. I hope that all council people have a chance to watch recording and listen to what our community members had to say, and some calls to action for us. And the commission actually made a motion for us to consider lowering the change that we made from what we down to 5. So that's something I'm sure that it was just really wonderful and encouraging for the community. The public hearing will continue the 21st, so this Thursday. The hearing will continue because there's just so much to digest. So there's other opportunities on Thursday. Come out and your voices be heard. I'm going to speak. Was important. And so it was at that meeting told about because we've been struggling with that meeting with trying to explain we're asking to be considered to detail your a different way of looking at that. I think be done. That we so for a thing and support that discussion. Develop questions. Really